Chapter 404. Fresh blood flowed out of the armor on his abdomen, dyeing it red in an instant. Lin Muyu stumbled, and his vision darkened. The injuries he had sustained in the past 2 minutes had greatly reduced his combat power. Outside the rear hall, a group of elite archers from the Iha nation drew their bows and aimed at him. A chilly arch at the side shouted, "Fire!" His golden-gored martial soul had been damaged, and he wouldn't be able to reform it in a short time. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and charged forward. His battle chi created a new layer of battle armor, and he was going to use it to block the arrows of the Iha nation army. Bang, bang, bang. One arrow after another bounced off his chest, and Lin Muyu raised his dragon spirit sword high into the air, slicing an archer into pieces. When his boots landed on the ground, he raised his left arm, and his 7 luminaries' profound force began to spin rapidly. Chaos of all life. Countless celestial bodies spun rapidly, tearing the bodies of dozens of archers into pieces. At the same time, a scorching wind swept toward him from behind. Lu Zhan was here again. This holy heaven-state cultivator was indeed difficult to deal with. Lin Muyu used her spiritual perception to determine his position, and she dashed forward without looking back. Then, she abruptly turned around. Ha! Lu Zhan hovered in midair, his palms filled with raging flames. His martial spirit, the fire serpent, coiled around his body, giving him a ferocious appearance. Just as his palm was about to land, Lu Zhan saw Lin Muyu's blood-filled eyes emit a cold glint. It was a soul attack from the Spirit Meridian technique. Whoosh! A sharp cry rang out, and Lu Zhan was almost immobilized. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu abruptly rose into the air with a mysterious starlight in her hand, and she struck Lu Zhan's abdomen with her palm. Star technique. 5 mountains descend from the heavens. Bam! With a loud bang, Lu Zhan was sent flying while coughing up a mouthful of blood. However, the flames in his palms suddenly spread out and fell down, engulfing Lin Muyu's entire body. How could a divine heaven realm cultivator block a palm strike? In the rear hall, dozens of noblemen and state war generals rushed over with their weapons, but they only saw a sea of fire. All of them were dumbfounded. Ding, she gritted his teeth and said, "Is he dead? Protect the market. Go." A general of the Iha nation suddenly drew his sword and growled, "Do you think our hundreds of warriors will be afraid of a mere Lin Muyu? Kill him." However, the flames caused by Lu Zhan's palm strike did not stop. In the blink of an eye, the courtyard was surrounded by thousands of armored soldiers, each holding a long spear, and other weapons, pointing straight at Lin Muyu. However, they did not know whether Lin Muyu was dead or not. At this moment, a sudden r sounded. Boom! The sound wave came from the raging flames and suddenly exploded. The impact was so strong that in the blink of an eye, the soldiers within 10 meters were turned into a pile of flesh and blood. In the rain of fire, a crimson holy dragon opened its front claws, and clouds danced around it. The dragon seemed to be carrying a person on its back, and it looked like it was about to soar into the sky. "It's a dragon!" Ding Shi was shocked. Under the protection of a group of guards, Man Ning's expression was very ugly. He yelled, "Lin Muyu assassinated Marshal Lu Zhao. We cannot let him leave Sunset City alive. Take him down." "Don't worry, Mar." The one who spoke was Lu Zhan. This divine heaven stage cultivator could only be injured but not killed. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and suddenly leaped into the air. He opened his sleeves, and a powerful domain descended. He stared at the 5,000-year Acatosaurus and grinned, "Evil dragon, do you think you can save him?" The Acatosaurus was furious. It opened its mouth and let out a scorching dragon breath. Bang! Lu Zhan raised his iron palm and forcefully swatted the dragon breath away. He then put his arms together and struck the Acatosaurus's head. With a crack, the skull seemed to crack, and golden dragon blood flowed out. However, the Acatosaurus did not die. It shook its head reluctantly and lost the ability to fly due to its heavy injuries. It suddenly fell to the ground. "Arrows to kill." No one knew who shouted, but the arrows from all directions flew toward the Acatosaurus. Lin Muyu let out a miserable howl and woke up from her coma. Only then did she realize that the Acatosaurus was using its dragon might to block the arrows coming from all directions. However, there was nothing it could do. Intense pain came from all over its body, and it felt like its body was about to be torn apart. Meanwhile, Lu Zhan used the Divine Heaven Stage's domain to temporarily hover in the air. It was no longer possible for it to break out of the encirclement. Kill! A group of armored soldiers from the Iha nation charged over and stabbed with their spears. Lin Muyu hurriedly turned around and jumped off the dragon's back, dodging the sudden stab of the spears. With a sweep of her sword, a dozen or so spear tips were all cut off. She lightly waved her hand and activated the chaotic light of the common people again. Boom! The dozen or so soldiers retreated one after another. Under the powerful pressure of the Divine Heaven Stage, they kept vomiting blood. However, none of them died. The heavily injured Lin Muyu could no longer use 10% of the chaotic light of the common people's power. Eat my blade! A powerful battle energy came from above. Lin Muyu looked up and saw a Iha nation general who was about 50 years old. His long blade was covered in frost battle energy. She had killed Lu Zhao and was now heavily injured. All the generals of the Iha nation were fighting to kill her to claim credit. Swish! Lin Muyu only waved her hand slightly, and an invisible blade flew out from her waist and cut off Duan Hai's neck. It was a little magic noise blade. A chill came from behind. This attack couldn't be avoided. Lin Muyu could only condense her remaining battle energy to form her battle armor to block it. She felt a sharp pain and coldness in her back. Her battle armor was cut open, and the long blade left a shocking wound on her back. She couldn't even see who the attacker was in the darkness. A dozen or so soldiers in front of her stabbed with their spears. Lin Muyu forcefully gathered her battle energy and used the chaotic light of the common people again. Boom! The star of the common people swept forward, blasting a group of Iha nation soldiers back. This time, it couldn't even hurt them. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel despair. At the same time, she looked to her right. After passing through a few walls, she would reach the main street of Sunset City. As long as she reached the main street, the Iha nation soldiers might not be able to catch her. However, arrows were already flying toward her from all directions. Her shoulder and leg were struck by several arrows in a row, and she didn't have the energy to condense her battle armor anymore. What was even worse was that Lu Zhan, a holy heaven stage powerful being, still had at least 30% of his strength. If he attacked, Lin Muyu would have no chance of escaping. Right at this moment, the Acatosaurus raised its head and let out a mournful cry. A captaincy's spear had pierced through its broken scales, and blood gushed forth. Roar! The enraged Acatosaurus used its sharp claws to push aside the spear, then bit down on Captaincy's head. It let out a howl of anguish and forcefully crushed the Captaincy's head. It turned around with a mouthful of blood, then wrapped itself around Lin Muyu in a bear hug, using its body to block the arrows for her. In the next instant, the Acatosaurus curled up, and the dragon scales on its back stood up as it began to rotate. Several dozen Iha nation soldiers were crushed into meat paste. The Acatosaurus let out a roar and smashed through the wall, rolling away with Lin Muyu. You want to leave? Lu Zhan flew over and struck the Acatosaurus with his palm. The Acatosaurus let out another mournful cry and spat out a mouthful of blood. Even though it was severely injured, it still managed to escape with Lin Muyu. After him, Marquis Man Ning was furious. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. That traitor Lin Muyu assassinated Marshal Lu Zhao. He must die. A large number of Iha nation soldiers chased after them. Marquis Man Ning was still enraged. Pass down my order. Lock down the entire city. No one is allowed to enter or leave. Lin Muyu is severely injured, so he won't be able to leave. Search the entire city. We must find him. I want to see his head impaled on the tip of a spear and come see me. Ding Shi was stunned. Man Ning said angrily, Marshal Ding Shi, you were the one who brought Lin Muyu into Sunset City. If you can't catch him, you will have to bear the blame. Do as you see fit. Ding Shi quickly cupped his fists. Marquis, please calm down. I will lead the search now. Lu Zhan, who was in the air, frowned. His aura has disappeared. The dim starlight shone on Sunset City. The city that was usually peaceful was now in chaos. The streets and alleys were filled with soldiers flying to and fro, all searching for a single person. Under the stone pavement of the city, a soft cry of pain came from the darkness. The sewers of the city were simple and crude. There was a thick smell of decay in the air. Only cockroaches, rats, and snakes would appear here. In the darkness, Lin Muyu's body was curled up in the sewers, panting heavily. The martial spirit gourd around her had sprouts, absorbing the surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual qi to replenish her energy. Lin Muyu gently pulled out an arrow from his arm. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain. After placing the arrow on the ground, he continued to pull out another. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 10 arrowheads around him. However, when he touched the cloth tied around his waist, he revealed a sad smile. He said in a low voice, "Brother Qinlei, you will bring you home immediately." Catasaurus had already returned to the alternate dimension. It needed some rest before it could continue fighting. Lin Muyu looked up at the dark ground. Using the spirit pulse technique, he sensed the situation on the ground. A large number of cavalry were searching the city. Needless to say, the city would be under martial law soon. He had to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would die in the city. Moreover, his blood was dripping into the sewers. Lu Zhan would find him sooner or later. There was not much medicine left in his Qiankuan bag. He did not even have enough healing medicine. He only had enough to stop the bleeding. More than 2 hours later, it was midnight. The sounds on the ground had also become much quieter. Lin Muyu sensed his qi. His qi had recovered to about 50%. He quietly sheathed his sword and walked along the sewers. A dim light came from not far away. It was the exit of the sewers. When Lin Muyu poked his head out, there was no one near or far. He leaped lightly and left the ground. However, his injuries were too severe. He suddenly fell and leaned against the stone wall at the side. His whole body was in pain. At this moment, a faint voice suddenly came from behind. "Commander Yu." "Who is it?" Lin Muyu raised his hand and grabbed the hilt of his sword. "Don't be nervous. It's me." Under the starlight, that person lifted the cloak on his head. 3 golden stars of the Iha nation shone on his neck. His face was full of vicissitudes. It was Xianxia who had defected to the Iha nation. Chapter 405. Xianxia. Lin Muyu was shocked. "How can it be you?" Xianxia smiled, the image of a wolf appearing on his shoulder. "My martial soul is a wolf, so I can distinguish and track the scent of blood. I knew you were hiding underground." "What do you want?" Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "Although I'm heavily injured, killing you is still a piece of cake." "I know." Xianxia sighed. "I know that in Commander Yu's eyes, I, Xianxia, am a despicable person. I can betray my loyalty in order to live, but not everyone can face death bravely. I, Xianxia, don't want to die, so I can only choose to betray. Let's not talk so much. My carriage is not far away, and Commander Yu is hiding in the compartment. I'll think of a way to send you out of Sunset City. Once you're out of the city and over the steel walls, the Iha nation won't be able to do anything to you." "Why should I trust you?" Lin Muyu raised her gaze and asked. "Do you have any other choice?" Xianxia's eyes were like those of a hunting eagle. "It's not difficult for me to use your head to claim credit. I could have killed you just now. Commander Yu, please trust me. I really don't want to see the Empire lose a talent like you." Lin Muyu smiled bitterly. "Let's go. As you said, I have no other choice." At dawn, the sky was about to brighten, but the whole of Sunset City was still in a state of chaos. The army barged into the homes of the commoners and searched without restraint. Countless eagle patrols screeched in the sky. In order to find Lin Muyu, the Marquis of the Sunset Marquis, Man Ning, had dug 3 feet into the ground and captured the 9 heavens. Unfortunately, he did not do so. A black carriage moved slowly on the main road, heading straight for the northern gate of Sunset City. However, the northern plaza was filled with the Iha nation's army, with at least 1,000 of them guarding it. General Xianxia, the city is under martial law. The guard reported respectfully. Xianxia sat majestically on the carriage and said, Xianxia has received orders from the Marquis to lead 3,000 warriors out of the city to kill Lin Muyu in the area between Sunset City and the steel walls. Here. This is the Marquis's personal edict and command arrow. The general took a careful look with the light of the torch and nodded. I understand. Men, open the gates. But right at this moment, another person appeared and said, Wait. The Marquis said that no matter who it is, anyone who wants to leave the city needs to be interrogated. General Xianxia, please forgive me for my disrespect. This Lin Muyu has committed a heinous crime. Not only did he kill Marshal Lv Zhao, he also killed many generals of Iha country. He deserves to die. I know. Xianxia stood up and said, Come, let's check. The general walked forward, drew his sword, and searched Xianxia's carriage. His cold gaze fell on the bottom of the carriage, and he raised his sword to stab it. Bang! Wood splinters flew everywhere. Xianxia's heart trembled. What are you doing? I'm giving you face by letting you search. Don't be so shameless. The guard pulled out his sword and examined it carefully. There were no bloodstains on the blade. He smiled and cupped his fists respectfully. Please forgive me, General. I was just following orders. All right, General, you may pass. Under Xianxia's command, the army slowly left the city. Commander Yu, are you all right? Xianxia asked worriedly after leaving the city. In the mezzanine, Lin Muyu looked at the pierced wooden plank under her armpit and smiled weakly. I'm fine. Even Lu Zhan didn't kill me. How could a mere guard have such a fate? Xianxia heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. That's good. You scared me to death. Once we are out of the city, I will leave you in the wild forest. This is as far as Xianxia can send you. Yes, thank you, General. The carriage jolted all the way and only came to a stop after traveling for a long distance. Xianxia opened the compartment and Lin Muyu jumped out. She looked around and saw Xianxia's army on the other side of the forest. Let's go. Don't let them find us. Thank you. Lin Muyu cupped his fists. I will always remember General Xianxia's kindness. Xianxia's expression was solemn. No, I am just a lowly trader. I can only do this to make up for the guilt I have felt for the past 3 years. Commander Yu, let's go. We will meet again if fate wills it. Lin Muyu disappeared into the forest. In the late autumn, the forest north of the Sunset City was already barren. Lin Muyu's armor was in tatters. He walked through the forest with his sword in hand. The thorns in the forest tore at his armor. He was covered in blood and his stamina was almost depleted. He looked nothing like the handsome general of the Longdan army camp. As he walked, the spiritual pulse art suddenly vibrated. Someone was coming. From afar, he saw an arrow flying towards him. Instinctively, he swung his sword backhandedly and knocked the arrow away. In the distance, a group of Iha cavalry had caught up. One of them shouted, "We've found Lin Muyu. Light up the smoke signal and inform the Marquis. The rest of you follow me. Chase and cut off Lin Muyu's head. He will be made a Marquis." A group of Iha Nation cavalry chased after him like crazy. Lin Muyu did not have the strength to turn around and fight back. There were close to 500 heavy cavalry soldiers here. She could only kill 30 to 50 of them at most before she would be cut into pieces. Thus, she activated falling star steps and dashed towards the direction of the steel wall like the wind. On the road, thick smoke billowed. The sky was bright. Marquis Xiang's bodyguards came out. Even Man Ning came out on a horse. In the distance, the steel wall was getting closer. But more and more Iha Nation soldiers were coming. Clang. Lin Muyu unsheathed the dragon spirit sword and charged into the crowd. She swept past like a whirlwind, leaving dozens of corpses behind her as she headed straight for the steel wall. However, countless Iha Nation soldiers appeared under the wall. Countless archers raised their longbows, and even the ballistae on the wall were calibrating. The steel arrows on the ballista were as thick as an arm, and even a god might not be able to withstand the power of one arrow, let alone a mere sanctuary realm like her. "Little dragon, can you use armor?" Lin Muyu asked while killing. He was really worried about Acatosaurus's condition. Otherwise, he would have used armor and flown away. Acatosaurus's voice came from the soul contract. "Awoo." Although the voice was weak, it was a definite answer. He could fly for a short period of time. "Pay fusion armor." Lin Muyu suddenly punched. His spiritual sense penetrated the crack in space. Amidst Acatosaurus's dragon roar, a blood-red color lingered around Lin Muyu, adding layers of dragon scales to his body. At the same time, a large number of red crystal scales gathered on his back, forming a pair of huge dragon wings. Suddenly, the surrounding Iha Nation soldiers looked as if they had seen a ghost. "God, what's going on?" A few hundred meters away, Marquis Xiang, Man Ning, shouted, "Kill him! Don't let Lin Muyu leave the steel wall." Instantly, the Iha Nation soldiers under the wall shot thousands of arrows. Clang, clang, clang. Ordinary arrows couldn't hurt Lin Muyu at all. He flapped his wings. Although it was a little difficult, he still rose from the ground and went straight to the top of the wall. Man Ning was furious. "A bunch of trash. Ding Shi, follow me to the wall." "Yes, Marquis." Although Man Ning was usually fat and looked like he could die at any time, he was extremely agile now. He reached the top of the steel wall in a few steps, just in time to see Lin Muyu jump over the wall and fly straight to the north, like a bird that had been released. Ding Shi narrowed his eyes and said, "It seems we can't catch him." "Fusitsu." Man Ning gritted his teeth. Marshal Ding Shi is a rare sharpshooter in South Ridge. He has extraordinary strength. "Someone bring me my shoot-the-sky bow." "Yes, Marquis." A guard handed a giant bow to Ding Shi. Lin Muyu is a sanctuary powerhouse. His battle armor can't be pierced by arrows. Ding Shi sighed. "Marquis, please don't make things difficult for me." "I really can't do it." "Don't worry." Man Ning stretched out his hand and pulled out an arrow from the guard's quiver. The arrowhead of the arrow reflected a cold white light under the morning sun. He laughed. "The white diamond arrow can kill gods and demons, let alone a heavily injured Lin Muyu." "This..." Ding Shi gritted his teeth. "Where did you get this white diamond arrow?" "I pulled it out from the corpses of our volunteers." Man Ning's eyes were cold. The Iha Nation suffered a lot from this white diamond arrow. "Today, I'll let Lin Muyu have a taste of it." Marshal Ding Shi has extraordinary strength and unparalleled archery. If this arrow doesn't hit, it can only mean that you've really committed treason. I'll hand you over to the military law office. Ding Shi felt a chill in his heart. He took the arrow, slowly drew the giant bow, and aimed in Lin Muyu's direction. Under the rising sun, Lin Muyu was like a bird trying to fly high. Whoosh! The arrow left the line. The next moment, in the distance, Lin Muyu's body trembled slightly and fell directly into the jungle. Man Ning couldn't help but laugh. "Open the gate. The cavalry of Sunset City will attack. It's time to kill Lin Muyu." Ding Shi lowered the giant bow in his hand. He stood there in a daze. Bang! Lin Muyu's body fell heavily to the ground. She fell into a maple forest in severe pain. The sorrowful cry of Acatosaurus came from Ihai. This arrow had directly pierced through the scales and also through Lin Muyu's chest. Fortunately, it did not hit the heart. Looking at the protruding arrowhead on her chest armor, it was a white diamond arrow. At this time, it was stained with her own blood. Puff! Breaking the arrow, Lin Muyu forcibly pulled out the arrowhead and threw it aside. She gasped for breath and looked like she was about to collapse. She hurriedly took out a bottle of gold sore medicine and applied it to stop the bleeding. She didn't have time to rest. Leaning on her long sword, she ran straight to the north. The north was the territory of the Empire and her hope of survival. However, it was not easy to run hundreds of miles without a warhorse. Behind her came the sound of the cavalry of Iha Kingdom. Without hesitation, Lin Muyu turned into the jungle. The efficiency of the cavalry's pursuit in the jungle would be greatly reduced. This was her only hope. The dragon scale armor on her body slowly dissipated, and Acatosaurus once again fell asleep. Lin Muyu secretly sighed. This time, if not for Acatosaurus's help, she would not have had the chance to escape. Stumbling through the jungle, the sky suddenly began to rain. Lin Muyu couldn't help but wail in her heart, "Even God is not helping me." Chapter 406. Fine autumn rain poured down on the forest. The Iha kingdom's cavalry galloped past this desolate forest. However, the cavalry could only travel on flat ground and could not set foot in the deep mountains. In a secluded cave in the mountains, the corpse of a 3,200-year-old black bear lay on the side. The flames of a bonfire danced about. A skewer of bear meat was skewered on the dragon spirit sword, and the bear's paws were grilled over the bonfire. At the side, Lin Muyu placed a pile of herbs on the ground and opened her palms to refine the medicinal energy. Earth dragon grass was very common in the mountains, but she had only found 2 blood ginseng after searching for a long time. She had used up all the healing potions and had to refine new ones on the spot. Otherwise, the healing speed of her wounds would be greatly reduced. Not long after, a few bottles of healing potions were refined. Lin Muyu immediately sprinkled them on her wounds, especially the wound that had been pierced by the white drill arrow. It had injured her lungs, and without healing potions to help her heal, she might die. At this moment, healing potions were like a miracle medicine that could save her life. After sprinkling the potions on her wounds, Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief and slowly lay down on the fur of the black bear's corpse. She suddenly felt a burning pain on her back. That was Lu Zhan's masterpiece. She had suffered a total of 3 palm strikes from Lu Zhan in Xiang City, all on her back. This injury was second only to the arrow that had pierced her chest. If it had been an ordinary person, these injuries would have been fatal. His nose was filled with the fragrance of the bear meat. It was almost done, so he took out a small magic noise knife, cut off a piece of bear meat, and tasted it. Perhaps because he was extremely hungry, this piece of meat was extremely delicious even without any seasoning. He immediately ate it heartily, and very quickly finished the whole skewer of bear meat. Then he added some firewood to the bonfire, laid on the bear's skin, and fell asleep. He was really too tired. When she woke up, it was already dawn. Lin Muyu sat up. The bonfire beside her had already been extinguished. She waved her arms. She had recovered about 60 to 70% of her physical strength and about 80% of her battle energy. However, she was injured all over, so her battle strength was naturally greatly reduced. If she fought now, she would definitely be less than half of her usual strength. However, she definitely could not stay here for long. The Iha kingdom was searching everywhere. He restarted the fire and roasted a lot of cooked meat. After eating to his heart's content, he even put a lot of meat into his Qiankuan bag. Then he walked out of the cave. There was a clear stream not far away from him. He filled 2 water bags with water and drank to his heart's content. Then he set off. The rain had stopped. She determined her direction based on the direction of the sun and headed north. With the fallen star steps, she ran wildly for a day. She could see the Qinling Mountains. After a day, she could see the Qinling Mountains. After a day, she could finally walk on flat ground. The villages near and far were all desolate. They had already been looted by the demons, and there was no sign of life at all. In the mountains, one could still see 1 or 2 hunters hunting. Pa! Her foot suddenly tightened. It turned out that she had stepped on a beast trap. However, at this time, Lin Muyu had the battle armor to protect her body, so she was not injured. With a light shake of the whirlwind, the beast trap was directly shattered. However, just as she was about to continue on her way, a voice came from behind her. "Why are you so unreasonable? You actually destroyed my beast trap." Lin Muyu turned around and saw a hunter about 30 years old with a few wild rabbits hanging behind him. She smiled and said, "Why? Do you want me to pay for it?" The hunter saw the 3 golden stars on Lin Muyu's neck at a glance. Although he was a commoner, he knew that the more golden stars a person had, the higher their rank was. Suddenly, the hunter's expression changed. He pouted and said, "Sir, why did you come to this wilderness alone? And this is an area occupied by the demon tribe." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "I am a soldier of the Empire. I just happened to pass by here." "You are?" The hunter's eyes widened. Suddenly, his body trembled. "You are the commander of the Empire's Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu? You know me?" "No, I don't." The hunter looked at her with lingering fear. He said, "But the nearby villages and hunters have been searched. The Iha Nation's army almost swept this place a day ago. They were looking for an Empire commander called Lin Muyu. I didn't expect it to be you. How many of them are left here?" Lin Muyu asked. "I don't know. Not many. This morning, a lot of people suddenly left." "I see. Thank you very much." "You're welcome." Lin Muyu looked at him again and said, "The demons might be coming back soon, and it's not safe here either. It's better for you to hide deep in the mountains and come out after the human army chases the demons away. At least you'll be able to keep your life." "Thank you for your concern, sir. I understand." The hunter's face was full of gratitude. Lin Muyu nodded and continued to walk north. After more than 2 hours, she rested for a short while in a valley. She sat on a huge green rock and took out bear meat from her chinkuan bag to chew slowly. But just as Lin Muyu was happily eating, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. The spirit pulse technique also fluctuated. Someone was coming, and it was most likely the people from the Iha Nation. Lin Muyu hurriedly turned around and hid behind the huge rock. Soon, a group of people entered the valley. They were all from the Iha Nation. There were about 200 people, and they were led by a person with the rank of a chiliarch. This chiliarch was at the Earth Realm and held a broadsword in his hand. He said with a cold expression, "According to the hunter's description, Lin Muyu should be nearby. She's covered in wounds, so she can't have gone far. Search for her. As long as you kill Lin Muyu, each of you will receive at least 10,000 Jinin coins." The group of cavalrymen revealed excited expressions and spurred their horses to search in all directions. Lin Muyu gripped the hilt of her sword tightly. Her heart was filled with helplessness. In the end, that hunter had betrayed her for the sake of money. In this day and age, who could be trusted? Her battle chi had recovered quite a bit. She could take a gamble. Moreover, she really did need a horse. Otherwise, it would take some time to reach the Qinling Mountains. Her battle boots stepped on the grass and went straight for the chiliarch. "Who is it?" The chiliarch turned around angrily, but he saw Lin Muyu pouncing at him with a body full of whirlwind battle chi. The sword light flashed, and the chiliarch's head flew. Lin Muyu kicked his corpse away and grabbed the reins of the warhorse instead. Dozens of cavalrymen beside her pulled out their swords and shouted, "Kill him!" But it was not that easy to kill Lin Muyu. Buzz! Her fist was surrounded by the 7 planets' profound energy. Lin Muyu raised her hand and punched. Chaos of all lives. Boom! The profound energy was like a shock wave that destroyed the group of people into a pile of flesh and blood. Lin Muyu was secretly pleased. Her battle chi had recovered about 70% to 80%, and the lethality of the 7 planets' profound energy had also returned. She turned her horse and went straight north. Behind her, a group of cavalrymen from the Iha Nation rushed over. "Kill this bastard!" They cursed. But at this time, there was a sudden sound, and a huge iron weapon flew over, directly cutting a knight and his horse in half. Dang! The battle axe cut into the rock at the side. This level of divine power was not something a human could possess. Oh my God! The Iha Nation cavalrymen's faces were full of horror. On the hillside, there was endless roaring. Black shadows appeared one after another. It was the armor demons. The demons had appeared in the western territory of the Iha Nation again. Roar! An armor demon rushed over with a spear straight at Lin Muyu. The rest of the armor demons rushed at the Iha Nation cavalrymen who had almost lost the will to resist. The dragon spirit sword flashed with starlight. Coupled with the power of the god-binding chains, the first appearance of starlight blasted out. At the same time that the spear was blocked, the long sword also penetrated the armor demon's body and blasted it into pieces. However, Before Lin Muyu had a chance to ride away, 3 armor demons rushed over and swept their battle axes through the air. With a crack, the warhorse that Lin Muyu had just obtained was severed. F***CK. Lin Muyu fell off the warhorse and cut off the head of an armor demon. However, the armor demons in all directions had noticed her and rushed over in a frenzy. Clang! The dragon spirit sword forcibly parried the blades of the 3 armor demons. Lin Muyu felt a sharp pain in his arm, and the wound burst open. The long sword could no longer withstand the power of the 3 armor demons, and his body rapidly lost balance. At this moment he suddenly pressed his left hand on the ground, and his legs swept out continuously, kicking the 3 armor demons back. Bang bang bang! It was also at this moment that she felt a vibration in the back of her head. She was stabbed by a spear. Fortunately, she had the protection of her battle armor, but she still felt a sharp pain. She hurriedly shouted, "Gourd vines!" Golden gourd vines rose around her and bound the armor demons one by one. Lin Muyu ran away without thinking. There were at least 1,000 armor demons in the distance. If she fought with them, she would die of exhaustion sooner or later. She was not that stupid. She activated falling star steps and fled the battlefield at full speed. A group of armor demons chased after Lin Muyu, but they couldn't catch up with her. They also found that this human ran very fast. The armor demons had returned to the territory of Iha Nation. This was undoubtedly a heavy blow. Lin Muyu had to leave here as soon as possible. The sooner she returned to the Qinling Mountains, the safer she would be. So she ran all the way to the Qinling Mountains as fast as she could. Until the next morning, she finally arrived about 5 kilometers south of Black Pine Pass. She was about to arrive, and there was no trace of the demon tribe behind her. She was safe. At this moment, a group of people passed by the jungle in the distance. The Empire's purple silk flower flag was swaying in the wind. It was very beautiful. It was the Empire's army. The exhausted Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She rushed over with the dragon spirit sword in her hand and shouted, "Which legion are you from?" A centurion urged his horse forward, his face full of shock. "I am the centurion of the army that Song Nan belongs to, sir." "You can't be one of the legendary 4 heroes of Lan Yen, Lin Muyu, are you?" "Yes, it's me." Before Lin Muyu's voice trailed off, an arrow suddenly came from afar. It pierced through Lin Muyu's battle armor, which she had let down her guard. The arrowhead went about 3 centimeters into her abdomen, and blood spurted out. In the crowd, a man with the rank of Chiliarch said coldly, "Lin Muyu has committed treason. Kill her on the spot." Chapter 407. After a heart-wrenching howl, Lin Muyu took several steps back. There was a sharp pain in his abdomen. It was his qi. This arrow had actually pierced through the outer layer of his battle armor. His battle qi kept flowing out. His face instantly turned livid. He raised his hand to pull out the arrow and spread his fingers. His battle qi turned into mysterious ice and froze the wound with a rustling sound. At the same time, he almost lost feeling in his abdomen, chest, and legs. He retreated with the help of the dragon spirit sword. He raised his sword-like eyebrows and roared, "Who are you?" In the crowd, the Chiliarch slowly pulled out the broadsword on his horse. His cold face was full of ruthlessness. He said, "Commander Tang Zwar of the Tsangnan Army's Vanguard Battalion has been waiting here for a long time. Someone, Lin Muyu, has betrayed the country and joined the enemy. He has become the traitor of the Iha country. Kill him. Whoever cuts off his head will be rewarded with 100,000 gold coins." A group of Tsangnan army soldiers pulled out their sabers, spears, and other weapons. They slowly spurred their horses and rushed over. Buzz? Something seemed to be ringing in Lin Muyu's mind. Was that the result of the rapid loss of battle qi? Holding the dragon spirit sword tightly, his heart was full of hatred. Who else could kill him in front of Black Pine Pass? Presumably, this Tangzwa was sent by Xianxia. No, I can't sit here and wait for death. Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, and Wei Chou must be looking for me. Maybe they are nearby. Swoosh! The golden god binding chains surged and lingered around the long sword. Lin Muyu stood majestically in the same place. The dragon spirit sword flew straight out under the control of the imperial fire sword, killing several Cangnan iron cavalrymen in a row. Then he stomped on the ground with his battle boots, and countless golden gourd vines broke out of the ground, entangling the charging cavalry. Demon Noise Blade. The invisible blades flew through the air. At this time, Lin Muyu had already cultivated the demonic noise blade to the point where she could use the mental cultivation method of the imperial sword technique to control the demonic noise blade. She didn't need to use the demonic noise fist to control the trajectory of the demonic noise blade. The invisible flying blades continuously spun in the air, killing more than 10 people in an instant. Tang Zhua and the others were dumbfounded. Change the bow and arrows. Tang Zhua sat far away on his horse and said lightly. A group of cavalrymen reloaded their bows and arrows. The next moment, sharp arrows flew towards Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's sea of aura was broken, and her body became stagnant, almost unable to move. She could only stand still and use the wall of the gourd to block the arrows. Although the wall of the golden gourd was strong, it also consumed a lot of do qi. In the blink of an eye, her do qi was being drained at an even faster rate. Lin Muyu groaned miserably. Her forehead was full of sweat. Could it be that she could only die in the hands of such a despicable person? Charge. In the distance, when Tang Zhua and the others launched their charge, Lin Muyu almost couldn't open his eyes. The strength in his body was about to be drained away along with her sea of aura. What followed was a terrible feeling of emptiness that almost took up his entire body. Tang Zhua's lance suddenly pierced the wall of the gourd. The wall of the golden gourd instantly shattered. Lin Muyu's body swayed, but before he fainted, he used all his strength to stab out. Tang Zhua's battle horse was killed, and both he and the horse rolled on the ground in a sorry state. One by one, the cavalrymen behind him raised their swords and charged towards Lin Muyu, looking like they were going to kill him. But at this moment, the god of war like Lin Muyu suddenly collapsed. Finally, he was injured on top of his previous injuries. He had reached the limit of his physical strength and willpower. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Tang Zhua crawled up from the mud and shouted angrily, "Kill him!" A deputy dismounted from his horse, raised his saber and rushed towards Lin Muyu. But at this moment, suddenly, a broadsword pierced through the sky. The blade flew past and directly chopped off the deputy's head. Immediately after, the surrounding was enshrouded in purple lightning. A fierce general almost descended from the sky. After grabbing the handle of the broadsword, he swept it in a circle, and another 5 heads flew. The purple electric flame wolf on his shoulder suddenly shone brightly. He held the sharp broadsword horizontally in front of his chest, and his gaze swept across the surroundings. His face was filled with anger. A bunch of bastards. Tang Zhua and the others were dumbfounded. A centurion even recognized the person in front of him and immediately knelt on the ground, saying with a trembling voice, "Greetings! Greetings, Commander Feng Jixing." Tang Zhua also slowly knelt on the ground. With a long saber in his hand, he said, "General Tang Zhua greets General Feng." Feng Jixing lowered his head and looked at Lin Muyu, who had fainted on the ground, as well as Qin Lei's head that was tied to his waist. He couldn't help but feel extremely distressed. He clenched his teeth and said, "You guys just wait." As he spoke, he knelt on one knee on the ground, helped Lin Muyu up, and asked anxiously, However, Lin Muyu's eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and she was still unconscious. Behind them, the intensive sound of hooves could be heard. The flags of the Imperial Guards and the Longdan army camp were intertwined. At least 5,000 cavalrymen had arrived together. In front of the cavalrymen, Qin Yin, who was dressed in a long robe, rode her horse over. When she saw Lin Muyu lying on the ground with a face full of blood from afar, she felt as if a knife was twisting in her heart. She turned around and staggered over. Her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu's wounds and muttered, "Brother Yu." Feng Jixing raised his head and said, "Your Highness, Tang Zhua and the others are here to intercept and kill you. As long as your Highness gives the order, I will immediately lead the Imperial Guards to kill this group of traitors who disobeyed the Empress's decree. Tang Zhou hurriedly kowtowed and said, General Feng, please spare our lives. We are only following orders. Following whose orders? Qin Yin hugged Lin Muyu and gently placed her palm on his sea of energy. The power of the god-binding shackles flew around her, and the god-binding shackles actually transformed into golden dragons that lingered around the wounds in Lin Muyu's sea of energy as if they were healing the injuries. The god-binding shackles in Lin Muyu's sea of energy actually responded and resonated with Qin Yin's god-binding shackles. It seemed as if there was a subtle connection between the source of the god-binding shackles. Reporting to Your Highness, we. Tang Zhu's forehead was full of sweat as he said, We didn't receive any information regarding Commander Lin Muyu. We only received accurate information that he had defected to the Iha nation. That was why we came here to hunt him down after we encountered him. Impudent. Qin Yin's starry eyes were filled with anger. You guys intercepted and killed Commander Yu. How can this be covered up with the words I don't know? Tang Zhou hurriedly begged for mercy. Your Highness, we really don't know. I am a collateral relative of Master Lan. Your Highness, please give face to Master Lan and spare this little one's life. Don't say any more. Qin Yin looked at him with disgust and said, General Feng, take this group of people back to Mozong Pass. We will now take Yu Gij back to Mozong Pass to heal. Yu Shu, inform Chu Chu Darren to quickly come over and see how to heal Yu Gij's injuries. Feng Jixing waved his hand. Immediately, Wei Chou, Zhang Wei and the others led the Longdan army camp and the Imperial army to surround the hundreds of Tsangnan army cavalry here. All of them put down their weapons and tied their hands with ropes. They were all brought back to Mozong Pass. On a war chariot, Lin Muyu was quietly lying inside. Qin Yin was hugging his neck and sat quietly at the side. Feng Jixing had untied the black cloth, revealing Qin Lei's head that was sealed in ice. Instantly, they understood everything. Qin Yin's tears swirled in her eyes and her nose turned sour. She tried her best not to cry as she murmured, in order to bring Commander Qin Lei home. Yu Gij almost died in Iha country. Feng Jixing's eyes were red, and, in the Empire's army, there is no one else who has such boldness and courage. Yu is a good person. On a warhorse at the side, Qin Yan's tears flowed out of her eyes as she sobbed. In the mountains, a rider flew over. His white robe fluttered in the wind. It was Chu Chu. What's wrong with you? Chu Chu turned and landed on the war chariot. Looking at the injuries all over Lin Muyu's body, he was completely shocked. He said in a low voice, Just who is it to actually want to kill you at all costs? Feng Jixing raised his head and said, It should be a holy domain expert from Lingnan's Iha country. Otherwise, you wouldn't be covered in injuries. Chu, quickly look at Yu's energy sea. It was pierced by that despicable person Tang's was bow and arrow. Chu Chu took a deep breath and covered Lin Muyu's energy sea with his palm. Streaks of holy heaven-level battle chi entered the wound. He frowned and said, Luckily, you used the laws of ice to seal the wound in his energy sea and protected the source of his martial soul's power. Xiaoyin, you also used the dragon-slaying art to heal him, right? Qin Yin nodded. Thank goodness. Chu Chu looked at her deeply and said, It was you who protected Yu's cultivation. Otherwise, it would have been too late. But, how can we save Big Brother Yu? He's unconscious now. Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with worry. It's fine. Chu Chu smiled faintly. This is also a good fortune. When Yu refined the perfect wall potion to awaken the fire fox seal for Princess Xiaoxi, I happen to have some of this perfect wall potion. With this perfect wall potion, Yu's Qi Si can be repaired. And, then quickly. Chu Chu took out a pile of bottles and jars from his universe bag. He found the Jade Perfection Potion and gave it to Lin Muyu to drink. The war chariot shook slightly, but Lin Muyu still didn't wake up. Qin Yin became even more anxious. Why is Big Brother Yu still unconscious? Your Highness, don't worry. Chu Chu was also somewhat helpless. The injuries on his body are too serious. His chest was even pierced by an arrow. If an ordinary person had such injuries, they would have died 7 or 8 times already. It's not easy for you to hold on until now. After we return to Black Pine Mountain Pass, let him rest and recuperate. With these injuries, it should be enough for him to recuperate for an entire winter. Feng Jixing also smiled. Your Highness, don't worry. You will most likely only wake up tomorrow. His physical strength is completely exhausted. In a while, when we return, let him forcefully feed a bowl of porridge to help him recover his strength. How do you want to force-feed him porridge? Qin Yin raised her head and looked at Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing touched his nose. This depends on your Highness. Chapter 408. Ink Pine Pass. In the depths of the general's residence's backyard, a quiet little courtyard was located in this fortress that was filled with a murderous aura. It was inharmonious with the surrounding barracks and blacksmith shops, but it had also become the best place for Lin Muyu to recuperate. The broken armor on Lin Muyu's body had already been taken off. After applying medicine to her wounds, she changed into a new set of undergarments. Her body was covered with a white bedding as she lay quietly on the bed. Her breathing was even and there was some color on her face. Qin Yin quietly sat by the bed and gently held onto Lin Muyu's hand, unable to bear to let go. At the side, Feng Jixing, Chu Chu, Qin Yan, Wei Chou, Su Yu and the other generals were quietly waiting. Your Highness. Feng Jixing couldn't help but ask, you really want to summon Xianxia? Qin Yin nodded and said, Yu's letter has already been sent to Cangnan province. Xianxia will reach Ink Pine Pass in half a day if he speeds up his horse. This time, I must get to the bottom of this. But Feng Jixing's sword-like brows were tightly knitted. Xianxia is now the Marquis of Pingnan and has extremely high prestige in the Empire's army. Many of the Empire's generals have even tacitly agreed that he is the new generation's god of war. Moreover, Xianxia is Duke Lan's man. Once he is dealt with, I'm afraid there will be a big fight. Su Yu also cupped her fists and said, Xiao Yin, you have to be careful. Even the Ink Pine Pass where we are now is actually under Duke Lan's jurisdiction. This is Earth Star Province, not North Ridge Province, not Lanyan City. I know. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, General Feng Antlan, you've seen it for yourself. Xianxia wants to get rid of you and I'd rather lose the world than lose Big Brother Yu. This time, I have to give Duke Lan and Xianxia a warning no matter what. I have to warn them not to challenge my bottom line. The ruler of the empire is me, Qin Yin, not him. As she spoke, Qin Yin abruptly stood up. Her eyes were filled with a piercingly cold light as she said, If Tang Lan still thinks that I'm still that little girl who can be manipulated at will, then he's gravely mistaken. I will grasp the power step by step and protect the people I care about from harm. A trace of admiration appeared in Su Yu's eyes as she said, Aunt Lien supports you. Father will also support you. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said with a faint smile, If there's anything your Highness needs this general to do, just say the word. Feng Jixing and the 20,000 Imperial Guards will be at your Highness' disposal at any time. Wei Chou also cupped his fists and said, The 20,000 elite cavalry of the Longdan army camp will also be at your Highness' disposal at any time. That's good. A trace of determination appeared in Qin Yin's pair of beautiful eyes as she said, Pass my order, transfer the 10,000 Seven Seas City troops in Ink Pine Pass back to Cold Star City, and replace all the guards in Ink Pine Pass with the Imperial Guards. Wei Chou, lead 10,000 Longdan army camp to Bugu City and control all the defenses of Bugu City. Qin Yan, lead 10,000 Longdan army camp to assist General Feng in guarding Ink Pine Pass. Everyone nodded simultaneously. The next day, the warm sunlight shone through the small window onto the bed. Lin Muyu finally woke up. When he opened his eyes, he saw Qin Yin's beautiful face with tiredness. You, Qin Yin softly called out. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. So I didn't die, how could that be? Qin Yin's eyes reddened as she said, Xiao Yin won't let anything happen to you. Lin Muyu looked down at his abdomen and said, I remember, my Qi was destroyed. Why does it seem to be completely repaired now? It was Chu who used the perfection medicine to repair the wall of your Qi. This, Lin Muyu's face couldn't help but turn red. This kind of thing. Qi Nin couldn't help but smile. She leaned into his embrace and said, Xiao Yin was so worried about you. Big brother you're too silly. Is it really worth it to give up your life for Big Brother Qin Lei's head? Lin Muyu wanted to say something but stopped. She reached out and gently stroked Qin Yin's long hair, saying, leaving Big Brother Qin Lei's head in the Iha country is an insult to him and also an insult to our Qin Empire. I led the Longdan army camp to kill my way into the Iha country's Xuanbai province in order to find a chance to bring Big Brother Qin Lei home. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started this meaningless war. And Xiao Yin knows. Qin Yin listened to the heartbeat of her beloved and a smile suddenly appeared at the corner of her mouth. Perhaps the happiest moment of her life was now. Just at this time, the sound of knocking came from outside and Feng Jixing's voice sounded, Your Highness, Duke Lan and Xianxia have both arrived and are in the conference hall. Let's go over. Qin Yan will lead the 500 elites of the Longdan army camp to guard this place. Okay. Qin Yin smiled faintly. After standing up, she leaned over and lightly kissed Lin Muyu's lips, saying, Xiao Yin is going to take care of some things that need to be taken care of. Wait here for me for a moment, I'll be right back. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Let a Yen in, I have something to ask him. Before long, Qin Yin left under the protection of a group of guards. Qin Yan walked in with a long spear in hand, his face full of joy. Big brother, you're awake? That's great. Yen, I didn't think that I would be able to live to see you again. Lin Muyu said very honestly, in Iha country, there were many times when I thought that I was definitely going to die. However, I know that I must bring Big Brother Qin Lei's head home. Otherwise, so many brothers of the Longdan army camp will have died for nothing. Qin Yan's eyes reddened and he said, Yen knows. Big brother has worked hard. What is Xiao Yin going to do? Judge Xianxia and Tang Zue. That's right, Tang Zue is the Seven Seas city general who plotted against Big Brother, Duke Lan's collateral relative. So it's like this? Lin Muyu forced herself to sit up and said, Send someone to inform Commander Feng Jixing that the demon army has re-entered the Swift White Province. Tell him to be on guard, the demon army may attack. Okay, I'll go arrange it right away. Lin Muyu leaned on the soft bedding, fighting energy circulating in his body. His original worries were all swept away, and his strength was recovering along with his body's recovery. What made him even more surprised was that after this calamity and narrowly escaping death, his cultivation seemed to have increased by a level. Although he hadn't stepped into the Saint Realm's second layer, he was definitely much stronger than before. He sat there happily, closed his eyes and continued to sleep. He had to recover as soon as possible. Qin Yin really needed him by his side now. In the general's mansion, inside the meeting hall, everyone was crowded together. This meeting hall was originally meant for about 50 people to discuss matters together, but now it was packed with close to 200 people. Tang Zue and a few deputy generals had their arms tied up, standing dejectedly in the center of the meeting hall. Under the protection of Chu Chu and Feng Jixing, Qin Yin sat on the master's seat. She looked at the crowd with an indifferent gaze and said, I think everyone knows why I've summoned everyone here this time, right? Tang Lan remained silent. Xiangyu's expression was ice-cold. He looked at Qin Yin indifferently and said, Your Highness, I don't know. Marquis Pingnan actually doesn't know? Qin Yin lightly slammed the table and said angrily, A few days ago, I've already issued an imperial edict that no one is allowed to hurt Lin Muyu, even if he did anything in the Iha kingdom. But in the end, Marquis Pingnan connived with his subordinates to intercept and kill the heavily injured Lin Muyu at Mozong Pass. What's even more laughable is that the Longdan army camp has been surrounded by Xingjue City for so many days without seeing any reinforcements. When Lin Muyu was alone, you actually appeared. Marquis Pingnan, Xianxia, You're indeed a loyal subject of the Empire. Xiangyu's expression froze. He knew the severity of the situation. He had never seen Qin Yin use such harsh words to reprimand a commander-level general. He had gotten himself into big trouble this time. Thinking of this, Xiangyu hurriedly cupped his fists and knelt on the ground. He said, "Your Highness, please calm your anger. I didn't know about this matter, and I also don't know why Tang Zhuo would intercept and kill Commander Yu on his own. This matter, I really didn't know." "Is that so?" Qin Yin raised her brows and said, "Tang Zhuo, tell me, who ordered you to intercept and kill Commander Yu?" Tang Zhuo's face was ashen. He raised his head to look at Xiangyu and Tang Lan, only to see Xiangyu's face filled with killing intent, while Tang Lan quietly shook her head. Tang Zhuo's heart instantly turned to ashes. He murmured, "I acted on my own." "I acted on your own?" Qin Yin couldn't help but laugh. "You're just a chiliarch and you actually have the power to mobilize the army? What a joke. Do you think you have the right to act on your own?" Tang Zhuo was about to cry from fright. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. "I really did sneak out. I even ordered my attendants to throw the dispatch arrow at the great general. It's all this lowly one's fault. Please spare my life, Your Highness." At this time, Tang Lan finally spoke up with one knee on the ground. "Your Highness, it's all this old subject's fault. That's why our Tang sect's general committed such a heinous crime. I only hope that Your Highness can spare his life and continue the bloodline. In addition, this old subject has no objections to stripping him of his official position and military rank." Qin Yin smiled. "Duke Lan, do you know what crime it is to defy the Emperor's orders?" Tang Lan trembled all over. "Death penalty. Tang Zhuo disobeyed the Emperor's orders and attacked the commander of a town. What crime is this?" "Death penalty." Tang Lan's face turned pale. "Since it's a death penalty, why is there a need to plead for mercy?" Qin Yin leisurely sat on the throne. She lightly crossed one of her long legs and arrogantly said, "Men, drag Tang Zhuo and the 3 deputy generals away. Immediately behead them and bring their heads to see me." "Your Highness, this..." Tang Tian, who was behind Tang Lan, turned pale with fright. "Tang Zhuo is my and Tang Lu's collateral cousin. I hope that Your Highness can be lenient and give him a chance. Let Tang Zhuo die on the battlefield. It's better to die in the hands of the demons than to die here." Qin Yin coldly smiled. "Whoever pleads for mercy will be convicted together with him." "Your Highness..." Tang Lu was slightly angry and seemed to want to say something. "Shut up." Tang Lan turned around and said angrily, "Do you want to be executed together with Tang Zhuo? If you don't want to, shut up." Tang Tian and Tang Lu kept quiet out of fear and no longer spoke. From the beginning to the end, Chu Chu had been standing majestically beside Qin Yin. His imposing manner was awe-inspiring, as if he would immediately kill anyone who disobeyed the Emperor's will. At this moment, Qin Yin finally looked like a real queen. Not long after, a few heads were brought out by the Imperial Guards. After Feng Jixing examined them, he looked at Qin Yin's head and said, "Your Highness, they're all dead." Qin Yin nodded lightly and said, "Duke Lan failed to supervise properly. His salary will be forfeited for 1 year." Marquis of Pingnan, Xiangyu, was not strict with his subordinates. His salary will be forfeited for 3 years and he will be demoted by 1 rank. Tang Lan and Xiangyu cupped their fists together and said, "Thank you, Your Highness, for your pardon." At this moment, a messenger suddenly rushed into the general's residence and said anxiously, "Your Highness, the demons are here." Chapter 409. The demon race is here? Feng Jixing frowned, as expected. As he said this, he turned around and cupped his fists. "Your Highness, please allow me to lead the Imperial Guards to defend against the enemy." "Yes, I will go after you." Qin Yin nodded. Su Muyun hurriedly said, "Your Highness, you must not do this. The demon race is ferocious, and the throwing strength of the armor demons is very strong. Many outstanding generals of the Empire have died under the throwing of the armor demon's weapons. I hope that your highness can put the country first. Grandfather, don't worry. Qin Yin stood up and opened her palm. A god-binding chain turned into a golden dragon constellation and hovered around her palm. She smiled and said, under Chu's guidance, Xiao Yin can already perfectly fuse the god-binding chain with the dragon slayer skill. I really want to see how powerful these demon race are. Su'er nodded and said, Father, don't worry. Xiao Yin knows what she is doing. Moreover, as the Empress, it is also a great encouragement to the army if she comes to the fortress. Su Muyun could only agree and said, send the heavy armor battalion to protect your highness. On top of the fortress, rows of arrow boxes and crossbow carts had been prepared. In terms of the ability to defend the fortress, the human race was definitely far better than the demon race. This was also the reason why Lin Muyu had taken 3 consecutive passes. Qin Yin was wearing a deep purple robe with gold embroidery. Under the protection of Feng Jixing, Chu Chu and the others, she came to the city wall. Looking from afar, the Lingnan mountain range was filled with densely packed armor demons. The black shadows connected together like a sea of black ladybugs. The demon race's attack had never been orderly, but it had always been very fierce. Qin Yin squinted her beautiful eyes and said, Armor Demon Army, Xianxia said. Long Qianlin's 50,000 dragon riders suffered a crushing defeat a few days after the decisive battle with the Armor Demon Legion in the Lingnan. The Iron Chain Formation was countered by the Armor Demon Marshal Lei Chang's Iron Chain Formation. Nearly half of the elite forces of the 100 Mountain City were killed. Now, the Iha country has suffered a great loss of strength. It will be very difficult for them to recover in a year or two. Therefore, Lei Chong must be planning to break the defensive forces of the Empire from the Qinling Mountains while attacking the Lingnan, destroying the Empire and the Iha country in one go. Lei Chong has a big appetite. Isn't he afraid of being stuffed? Qin Yin smiled. Xianxia also smiled and said, Your Highness, most parts of Qinling Mountains are natural strongholds. The passable roads have also been built with city passes. Armor demons are not good at climbing. Between Cangnan Province and Earthstar Province is a boundless deep forest, where tens of thousands of years-old spirit beasts roam. Human armies are not willing to pass through there, so the Armor Demon Army is not willing to face the tens of thousands of years-old spirit beasts. As long as we guard the pass, we can guarantee that nothing will go wrong. Qin Yin nodded. Yes, Marquis Pingnan's words are reasonable. At this time, there were already armor demons approaching the shooting range. One by one, the ballista began to shoot. Although the accuracy was not high, as long as it hit the target, it could penetrate the body of the armor demons. For a moment, the mountain range was filled with the miserable howls of the armor demons and the loud sound of the ballista hitting the rocks. The Imperial soldiers on the city also changed to bows and arrows and began to shoot those approaching armor demons at close range. Something's not right. Feng Jixing frowned and said, Your Highness, look, what is that? Everyone looked over and found that on the road in front of the city pass, a group of armor demons were pushing several huge chariots to the city pass. Feng Shi narrowed his eyes and said in amazement, Siege ladders? Xianxia was stunned. Armor demons are extremely stupid. How can there be such ladders? Feng Jixing said, It seems that Qianfeng has enslaved a large number of human craftsmen to make siege equipment. Look over there, it seems that they also have catapults. This is bad. Xianxia said with a frown, If we let their siege ladders get close to the city, a large number of armor demons will rush up and no one will be able to stop them. Don't worry, they won't be able to get close. Qin Yin smiled slightly, and beside her, Chu Chu also seemed to have a card up his sleeve. Xiao Yin, why don't you try the power of the second layer of the Dragon Slayer incantation? Chu Chu said with a smile. Yes, teacher. Qin Yin let out a soft cry, and suddenly the fighting energy around her began to revolve, forcibly pushing away the guards who were protecting her. Then, golden god-binding chains began to dance wildly, transforming into illusory dragon-shaped dragons that hovered above Qin Yin's head, gently swaying along with Qin Yin's palm. Finally, when the power was gathered to the extreme, Qin Yin suddenly waved her palm forward, and the combined power of the Dragon Slayer incantation and God-binding chains flew out. Boom! There was a sudden explosion in the distance, and a huge siege ladder was directly turned into powder. Even the power of the God-binding chains gave rise to a small mushroom cloud. Heavens! Xianxia was dumbfounded, and the group of generals were also dumbfounded. Everyone knew that the Qin family's God-binding chains were powerful, but no one knew that the God-binding chains would be this powerful after being cultivated. Moreover, this was only the second layer of the Dragon Slayer incantation. How powerful would it be if it was cultivated to the later stages? Feng Jixing reached out to support his chin, which had almost dropped, and said, "It seems that in the future, the guards responsible for protecting your highness can be reduced by about half. Your highness' strength. I'm afraid that ordinary people won't be able to get close to you." Qin Yin faintly smiled. "I also didn't think that the Dragon Slayer incantation would be so powerful. This is all thanks to Chu Chu's teachings." Chu Chu lightly stroked his white beard, and said with a smile, "The Dragon Slayer incantation has a total of 7 layers, and I've successfully cultivated them all. However, when I use my fire cauldron to display the Dragon Slayer incantation, its power is far inferior to the power of your highness God-binding chains. Speaking of which, I created this Dragon Slayer incantation especially for your highness. Your highness bloodline is pure, the purest of the Qin imperial family's bloodline. With the addition of the God-binding chains, cultivating the Dragon Slayer incantation will naturally be twice the result with half the effort. The destructive power of this coiling dragon strike is indeed a bit frightening." However, after using the coiling dragon strike, Qin Yin's face was a bit pale. It was obvious that this move consumed a lot of battle chi. "Careful, the armor demons are throwing their weapons." Feng Jixing suddenly leaped up and waved his wind cutter in the air. With a dang sound, he blocked a spear thrown by an armor demon. However, the armor demons about 100 meters away from the city all followed suit and threw their weapons. For a moment, the city was filled with wails as many Imperial Army soldiers were shot to death by those blunt weapons. Buzz! A battle axe spun in the air, heading straight for Qin Yin. "Your Highness, be careful." Xianxia hurriedly circulated his chaotic force. "Marquis Pingnan, don't worry." Qin Yin smiled faintly, and the divine power of the God-binding chains was once again produced in her body. The 3 God-binding chains danced rapidly like the shadow of a dragon, suddenly transforming into a crystal shield in front of Qin Yin. Bang! The energy burst out, but Qin Yin was unharmed, while the battle axe quickly rebounded and fell down the city. Qin Yin leisurely waved her hand, and the crystal shield seeped into her body, once again transforming into the divine power of the God-binding chains. She smiled and said, "The sacred dragon shield of the 3rd layer of the dragon-slaying art is indeed indestructible." Chu Chu smiled and said, "That's because your highness's power is very pure. However, your highness still needs to continue to diligently cultivate. The day that your highness successfully cultivates the 7 heavens of the dragon-slaying art, your highness should also be able to step into the saint domain. After stepping into the saint domain, your highness' beauty will remain forever, and your highness will always be as beautiful as you are now." Of course, Qin Yin's heart was moved. Her little face blushed, and she bit her red lips and said, "I will." Feng Jixing laughed mischievously at the side. He wiped the dust on the windcutter saber and said, "It's a pity that you didn't see this scene. Otherwise, he would definitely be very amazed by your highness's cultivation." Feng Shi smiled and said, "Yes." Qin Yin didn't say anything else. Her heart was beating wildly. Finally, one day, she could rely on her own strength to protect Lin Muyu. Wasn't this something that she had always dreamed of? The momentum of the armor demon's attack was very fierce, but the archers stationed at the Longdan army camp's gate were also very sharp. They shot down the armor demons one by one with white drill arrows. In the blink of an eye, the gate was already covered with armor demons' corpses. However, as time dragged on, The armor demons wore chariots and catapults approached one by one. When Qin Yin was about to use another coiling dragon strike, Chu Chu suddenly pressed on her shoulder and said, "Xiao Yin, let me do it." "Chu, be careful." "Don't worry." Chu Chu laughed loudly and leaped out of the city. His whole body was covered in flames, and the image of the awe-inspiring fire cauldron appeared around his body. He stood in the air and blasted out 5 palms in a row. The huge flaming palms lit up the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of explosions was endless. The siege ladders and catapults were all turned into powder. The fire burned wantonly and engulfed the surrounding armor demons. Was this the power of a Saint Realm Third Heaven expert? Feng Jixing, Xiang Yu, Qin Yan, and the others were dumbfounded. If a Saint Realm expert was already this powerful, then what about the God Realm expert? Everyone quickly thought of that terrifying Luolan. Yes, the difference between a god and a human was really too big. A God Realm First Heaven Lower God could already overturn rivers and seas in the human world, right? When Chu Chu flipped over and flew up the city with the help of the power of space, there was already a sea of fire behind him. Hundreds of armor demons were howling miserably in the flames, and the siege equipment that they had deliberately transported were all destroyed. Although the armor demon army was stupid, they would not court death. Knowing that they had lost, they did not forcefully attack. The sparse sound of drums sounded, and they retreated. The demon race has lost. Tang Lan looked into the distance with a pair of turbid eyes and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Your Highness. With this defeat, the demon race will most likely not attack Ink Pine Pass again." Xiang Yu cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, this subordinate must return to Cangnan as soon as possible. The demon race's tactic is to spread out their forces and attack all the human cities on the plains. This subordinate must go and defend the fortress." "And thank you, Marquis Pingnan." Qin Yi nodded. Xiang Yu turned around and led a group of subordinates away on horseback. Feng Jixing looked at the retreating armor demon army in the distance, wanting to say something, but hesitated. "General Feng, do you have something to say?" Chu Chu asked with a smile. Feng Jixing chuckled, touched his nose, and said, "Chu, can you teach me the Dragon Slayer art?" "Sure, 10,000 Jinin coins as a tuition fee. How about it? Do you want to learn?" "Deal." Feng Jixing clenched his fist, a look of determination on his face. Note: the Dragon Slayer art has a total of 7 moves: Reverse Dragon Spin, Coiling Dragon Strike, Sacred Dragon Shield, Golden Dragon Flame, Horned Dragon Bind, Azure Dragon Break, and Thousand Dragon Soar. Chapter 410. 7 days later, the devils withdrew from Mozong Pass and targeted Ding Shi's army in Xiang City to the south of the Steel Wall. Lin Muyu needed to recuperate, so Qin Yin ordered an army to stay behind to guard the Qinling Mountains. The Longdan army camp and the Imperial Guards returned to Lanyan City. At this point, the southern border of the Qin Empire was finally pacified. More than a dozen passes and fortresses in the Qinling Mountains fell into the hands of the Imperial Army to resist the Iha nation and the Devils. On December 21, 7734, the army returned to Lanyan City. The fierce battle was finally over. As the monarch, the first thing Qin Yin did was naturally to reward the soldiers. The next day was the court assembly, and all the officials gathered. Although Lin Muyu was wrapped in gauze, he still carefully put on his armor and walked to the court with his injuries. He knew very well that he had to support Qin Yin at this time. Otherwise, she would still be hindered by Tang Lan and Su Muyun in the court. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu stood together and asked with concern, "How are your injuries?" "Much better. Don't worry." Lin Muyu grinned. "That's good." Feng Jixing said worriedly, You have to recover quickly. The devils have been restless recently. Our scouts in Winterfrost City have sent news that Qianfeng has been training the armor demons all day long. When we encounter the Qianfeng army again, I'm afraid they won't be as stupid as they were last time. Lin Muyu thought of Qianfeng, the marshal of the devils. Such an intelligent and courageous person was indeed a big threat to the empire. She only hated that she wasn't strong enough. Otherwise, she could directly sneak into Winterfrost City and kill Qianfeng with a sword. Then the empire would be much safer. At this time, an attendant shouted, "The court assembly begins." Everyone knelt on one knee to welcome the empress. Amidst the sound of footsteps, Qin Yin walked up to the throne accompanied by a few female officials. After she sat down gracefully, she raised her hand and said, "Sirs, please rise." Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing stood up together and looked up. They saw that Qin Yin was wearing a milky white robe today, which made her look even more graceful and elegant. Her beautiful face revealed a mature charm, but still retained a bit of shyness. However, at this moment, Qin Yin was no longer timid. Looking at the officials with her beautiful eyes, Qin Yin's voice was very sweet. She said clearly, "Since Commander Yu led the Longdan army camp to the south, she has made many military achievements. She took back the Black Pine Pass, Jiyuan Pass, and other fortresses from the devils. She even killed her way into the lost land of the empire in Lingnan and took back the Fiery Moon City, Xingjue City, and other cities in the Swift White Province. She has greatly boosted the military power of the empire." However, the greatest achievement of Commander Yu is that she pretended to surrender and sneaked into Xiang City. She took back the head of Qin Lei, the former commander of the Royal Guards, who died for the empire, from thousands of soldiers in Xiang City. I have decided to confer the title of first-rank general to Commander Yu, one of the 11 great generals of the empire. The officials were moved. They looked at each other, but no one seemed to be able to find a reason to object. The Tang family's generals had a grave expression and did not make a sound. This time, the empress had killed 4 Tang family's generals in a fit of anger because of Lin Muyu's matter. Furthermore, this included Tang Zhou, a close relative of Tang Lan. They dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. Among the people, only Tang Lu was somewhat indignant. He said, "Your Highness, Commander Yu has indeed made great contributions, but he is still young. I'm afraid his qualifications are not enough to be one of the great generals of the empire at such a young age." Qualifications? Qin Yin smiled and said with great familiarity, "In Lingyun Pavilion, Xiang Wenian became a marshal at the age of 21, Luo Tonghai became a general at the age of 24, Feng Yicheng became a general at the age of 27, and Commander Yu is already 26 years old. What's wrong with qualifications?" Someone read the letter from Lingnan's Iha country's rebels. "Yes, Your Highness." A female official dressed in green nodded respectfully. She took out a letter and opened it. Facing the officials, she read, "When Lin Muyu was seizing Commander Qin Lei's head at Marshal L.V. Zhao's residence, there was a chaotic battle. A total of more than 100 people died under his sword. Among them were L.V. Zhao, one of the 7 marshals of Lingnan's Iha country, General Zhao Jiao, General Li Sha, the commander of the Green Cavalry, Wang Biao, and the deputy commander of the Jingguojun, Dong Yan. In addition, Commander Yu also killed Luo Lan's subordinate, Saint Realm expert Yan Li, and severely injured Saint Realm expert Lu Zhan." When she finished, she turned around and bowed to Qin Yin before retreating. Qin Yin stood up with a smile on her beautiful face. She said, "Let me ask you, in the entire Qin Empire, which brave and loyal general could do such a thing?" Su Muyun took a deep breath, cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, Commander Yu's loyalty to the empire can be seen by the heavens and earth. In Lingnan, he can do what others can't and endure what others can't. His achievements are outstanding and can be said to be unprecedented. In the empire's hundreds of years, no one has made such a contribution." This old official thinks that Commander Yu's achievements are worthy of the title of Commander General. Moreover, there are 20,000 brave warriors in the Longdan army camp who are brave and good at fighting. They are the cream of the crop in the empire. Qin Yin was surprised. She didn't expect Su Muyun to rely on Lin Muyu so much today. She smiled and said, "Thank you for your approval, grandfather." Then, promoting Lin Muyu to general, "Do you have any objections?" Tang Lan cupped his fists and said, This old official has no objections. Everyone in the Tang family cupped their fists and soon, everyone started to congratulate Lin Muyu. After all, such a young general was rare since ancient times. Moreover, Lin Muyu was also the great deacon of the empire's holy temple. She was practically doted on by Qin Yin. Immediately, Lin Muyu took a step forward and knelt on one knee. "Thank you, Your Highness." Qin Yin smiled and said, "Brother Yu, please get up." Lin Muyu nodded. Soon, two imperial female officials walked forward. One of them was holding the general's seal and ribbon, while the other was holding the general's sword. These were all symbols of military power and military rank. After receiving them one by one, Lin Muyu expressed her gratitude again. The second matter is about the reorganization of the royal guards and the reconstruction of the White Robes Imperial Guards. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were like water as she looked at the officials and said, "According to the rules of the empire for more than 7,000 years, the important task of protecting the emperor has always been undertaken by the Imperial Guards. But now, the Imperial Guards are shouldering the responsibility. The Imperial Guard's job is to protect the imperial capital, not the emperor. So I think it is urgent to rebuild the Imperial Guards." The ministers were taken aback once more. Su Muyun frowned and cupped his fists. "Your Highness, the protection of the Zetian Palace has always been the responsibility of the Su family's cavalry led by your Aunt Luan. Don't you trust Aunt Luan?" Qin Yin smiled sweetly. "Grandfather, what are you talking about? Aunt Luan is Xiao Yin's relative. How can I not trust her? It's just that this is the rule left by the previous emperors. The emperor must personally confer the title of the White Robes Imperial Guards and establish the royal guards to protect the Zetian Palace. Just like grandfather and Duke Lan have always said, the ancestors' rule cannot be abolished. Duke Lan, what do you think?" Tang Lan's eyes lit up. He cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, rebuilding the royal guards is not a small matter. It needs to be done step by step. Let's start with the White Robes Imperial Guards. This old official suggests that Your Highness confer the title of White Robes Imperial Guards first, then build a team of 100 Imperial Guards. Finally, rebuild the Royal Guards. After all, the Empire's financial resources are limited. We can't be as extravagant as we were 4 years ago." Qin Yin pondered for a moment and said with a smile, "Duke Lan is right. Then, let's start with the conferment of the White Robes Imperial Guards." Su Muyun said respectfully, "Your Highness, according to the ancestors' rule, there have always been only 6 White Robes Imperial Guards. Now Chu Chu, Qin Lei, and Du Hai have all died for the empire. Only Feng Jixing, Chu Chu, and Yao Yuan are left. Therefore, we only need to add 3 more people. Does Your Highness already have a candidate in mind?" "Yes." Qin Yin smiled with her dimples and said, "Grandfather, I plan to confer the title of Commander Yu as one of the White Robes Imperial Guards." Su Muyun was slightly stunned. In fact, he had already expected this. He smiled helplessly and said, "That's true. Yu is Your Highness' sworn brother. Moreover, he has repeatedly risked his life to protect you. You becoming a White Robes Imperial Guard is something that everyone expects." Qin Yin smiled and said, "Thank you for your permission, Grandfather." Tang Lan said, "This old official also believes that Commander Yu's promotion to the White Robes Imperial Guard is a matter of course. However, there are still 2 more people. I wonder if Your Highness has a candidate in mind. The White Robes Imperial Guards are a symbol of loyalty and strength. They symbolize the strongest martial force and the most loyal belief by the Emperor's side. I hope that Your Highness will think twice before making a decision." "Yes, I understand." Qin Yin nodded. "I wonder if Duke Lan has anyone to recommend?" Tang Lan smiled. "Xianxia, the descendant of the Empire's god of war, Xiang Wenin. He is well versed in the Chaos 9 Strikes martial art. He is even willing to charge and break through enemy lines for Your Highness, disregarding life and death." Immediately, a general with the surname Su behind Su Muyun couldn't help but laugh. "Xianxia? He killed 8 million people in the Five Valleys city with a single order. How can such a homicidal maniac be worthy of becoming a White Robe's Imperial Guard? Xiang Yu's face was ashen. He said indifferently, "This general knows that I am lacking in talent and virtue. I hope that Duke Lan can recommend someone else." Tang Lan sighed. He looked at the group of people behind him, including Tang Lu, Tang Tian, and Tang Wei. He couldn't help but sigh again. Among the descendants of the Tang clan, only Tang Xiaoxi was the most capable. However, she didn't stand on his side. The other brave general was Tang Zhen. However, Tang Zhen was too upright. Therefore, he couldn't be used by Xiang Yu. He looked like a mediocre person. At this time, Su Myun cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, this old official recommends Su Yu. She is your Aunt Lien. Her loyalty goes without saying. Moreover, she holds the military power of the 200,000 soldiers in Muyu City." Qin Yin looked at Su Yu with her beautiful eyes. She smiled and asked, "Aunt Lien, are you willing?" Su Yu was pleasantly surprised. Can I? Of course you can. Thank you, Your Highness." Su Yu took a step forward and knelt on one knee. She said excitedly, "Thank you, Your Highness, for your grace. Su Yu will forever be loyal to the Qin Empire. Otherwise, I will die by the sword." "Aunt Lien, please get up. You don't have to be so polite." Qin Yin was filled with joy. She said, "Then it's decided. Lin Muyu and Su Yu will join the White Robe's Imperial Guard. Tomorrow, we will hold the conferring ceremony in Zetian Palace. After that, I will rebuild the Imperial Guard." Chapter 411. At night, the candlelight swayed gently. In the office of the temple's Grand Deacon, Lin Muyu took off her armor and changed her bandages. She held a scroll in her hands and started reading. Beside her, the two deacons, Gu Yang and Zhou Yao, were also helping to read through the scrolls. After Lin Muyu left, there seemed to be a lot of scrolls accumulated. "Don't move." Chu Yao's voice came from behind. She opened her snow-white fingers and a warm fighting aura seeped into Lin Muyu's wounds to speed up the recovery. The reason why Chu Yao could become the Grand Deacon of the Spirit Medicine Department was not just because she was proficient in alchemy, but also because her holy hand was one of the best in the world. "It itches, I can't help it," Lin Muyu explained. Chu Yao giggled. "You have to endure it even if you can't help it." "AI, you stinking brat, I really don't know what to say about you. You broke into the marshal's residence of Iha country alone. Your courage is greater than the heavens, you really don't fear death." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and said, "Sister Chu Yao, if you were a man, you would have done the same. I was only 50 miles away from Sunset City and knew that Brother Qin Lei's head was stored in a bottle in Sunset City. How could I not take the risk? In short, don't do it next time." Chu Yao gently patted his shoulder and said, "Your life does not belong to you alone. If you died, I would have lost my last family member." "I know." Lin Muyu lowered her head and said, "I won't do it next time." "And that's more like it." Chu Yao smiled. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door and a temple guard walked in and said respectfully, "Grand Deacon, there is someone from the Duke's residence of Sunset Rain City who wants to invite you to the Duke's residence. Duke Yun has something to discuss with you." "The Duke's residence of Sunset Rain City?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "What does Duke Yun want with me?" This subordinate does not know, he only said that he has something to discuss. "Oh," Guyang said at the side, Su Muyun has never been on good terms with you. If you want to go, then bring Qin Yen, Wei Chou, and the rest along. Otherwise, it's too dangerous." "Okay, got it." Lin Muyu raised her head and said, "Have Wei Chou and Qin Yen pick 100 people from the Longdan army camp and go with me." The Longdan army camp gathered very quickly. They quickly arrived at Tongtian Street from the camp behind the Divine Temple. Lin Muyu also put on the Imperial Guard's armor and rode takshu. She led everyone to follow the servant from the Duke's residence. Su Muyun's Duke's mansion was not too far away. This Duke's mansion was rebuilt 2 years ago. It was originally the mansion of a general. Later, During the Lanyan city chaos, the owner died in battle, so it became Su Muyun's duke's mansion. However, it was still very spacious and exquisite. Yo, there are so many people. In front of the mansion, Su Yu was guarding with a few generals of Muyu City. She could not help but laugh and said, You are too wary of our Su family. You brought so many soldiers from the Longdan army camp over as if you were going to fight. Don't be nervous. Father just asked you to come over to chat and drink tea. Lin Muyu flipped over and dismounted from the horse and said, It's really good to drink tea. And see, let's go in. But along the corridor all the way into the depths of the mansion, Wei Chou, Qin Yan, and the rest stayed in the courtyard to wait, while Lin Muyu followed Su Yu straight to Su Muyun's residence. Although Lin Muyu was injured, her strength had recovered at least 70%. With Su Yu and Su Muyun's strength, they were probably not a match for Lin Muyu. Creak. After the door was pushed open, the candlelight inside was still swaying. Su Yu walked in with Lin Muyu and called out softly, Father, Yu is here. Su Muyun turned around, holding an ancient scroll in his hand. Under the illumination of the candlelight, his face looked very old. His hair and beard were all white. This old man seemed to be full of fatigue, but reality did not allow him to rest for even a moment. May I know why Duke Yun is looking for me? Lin Muyu asked. Su Muyun smiled and said, Do you know why I did not object to you conferring the title of general during the day? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Su Muyun said, Because there are too few people who can be used by Xiao Yin's side, and there is almost no one among our Su family's generals who can take charge. As he spoke, he raised his hand and said, Sit down and talk. Thank you, Duke Yun. Lin Muyu untied the dragon spirit sword and placed it on the table beside her. She took the teacup that Su Er handed over and nodded with a smile. After Su Muyun sat down and took a sip of the tea, he carefully savored it and said, Tanglan is recruiting soldiers on a large scale within the Tsangnan province, and has already recruited about 100,000 new soldiers. Moreover, the Ministry of Revenue has allocated the iron mines, forests, and other resources within the Tsangnan province and Earthstar province to Tanglan. Even the control of more than a dozen counties in the North Ridge province has fallen into Tanglan's hands. If this continues, I'm afraid that the empire will be surnamed Tang and not Qin. Lin Muyu remained silent. Su Muyun continued, The former emperor sent Feng Jixing to assassinate my only son, Su Qin, causing the Su family to have no more descendants. Now that Xiao Yin is my only descendant, I must ensure her position as emperor and the stability of the empire. Therefore, I need a general who can take charge of the army of the Twilight Rain City. Lin Muyu put down the teacup and said, Duke Yun, if you have anything to say, please say it directly. Su Muyun smiled slightly. You, call Su Chang in. Yes. Su Yu opened the door and called softly, Su Chang, come in. Not long after, a young girl around the age of 18 walked in. She was wearing a long robe of the Empire's maidens. She had a pretty face and somewhat resembled Su Yu. She smiled and gave Su Muyun a ladylike bow and asked, Grandpa, what's the matter? Su Muyun smiled faintly. Su Chang, do you know this general? Su Chang turned to look at Lin Muyu, shook her head, and said with a smile, I don't know him. Looking at his clothes, he is just a guard. Why would Grandpa drink tea with such a person? Su Muyun was startled, and a trace of displeasure appeared on his face. He said, This general is one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, Lin Muyu. Ah, she is Lin Muyu? Su Chang looked at him excitedly. She tidied up her dress a little nervously and said, Princess of Twilight Rain City, Su Chang, greets Commander Yu. You're welcome. Lin Muyu raised his hand and didn't even look at her. Su Chang, you can leave. Yes, Grandpa. Su Chang looked at Lin Muyu again and then left reluctantly. You, what do you think of her? Su Muyun asked with a smile. Lin Muyu nodded and said, What do you mean, Duke Yun? Ha. Su Muyun laughed loudly and said, Su Chang is the only bloodline left behind by Su Qin. It's a pity that she's a girl, but she's extremely beautiful. She's somewhat similar to her aunt, the Empress Jingda, Su Yun. Don't you think that her appearance is somewhat similar to Her Highness Yin? As long as you are willing, I will betroth Su Chang to you. In addition, I will also hand over the 200,000 soldiers of Twilight Rain City to you. From then on, we will be a family. Lin Muyu's heart suddenly surged and she said, Duke Yun, I have never thought about my marriage. I only want to assist Xiao Yin and unify the world. It is true that a man's ambition is to unify the world, but it is also human nature to marry and have children. Su Muyun continued patiently and said, Xiao Yin relies on you, and I, Su Muyun, also relies on you. However, I cannot bet everything on the word loyalty. Only if you marry Su Chang, can I hand over half of the world to you. Lin Muyu lowered her head and did not say a word. Su Muyun's eyes shot out a sharp light and he said, Lin Muyu, could it be that you really want to marry Qin Yin? Don't forget, she is the Empress, and what are you? Lin Muyu's body trembled, and she raised her head to look at Su Muyun. She suddenly stood up, grabbed the dragon spirit sword on the table, and said, Duke Yun, I have always loved Xiao Yin. Although I am only a subject, there will be a day when my ability is enough to dominate the world. At that time, you can see if I am worthy of Xiao Yin. As he spoke, he walked out without looking back, and the moment he stepped out of the door, he suddenly stopped and said, In this life, I will not marry anyone else but her. Xiao Yin wants to become an empress that is supported by the world, and I will help her achieve this dream. Duke Yun, I hope that we are not enemies. You are Xiao Yin's maternal grandfather, and also my relative. I do not wish to meet you on the battlefield, and that is all I have to say. Take care of yourself. The sanctuary's aura swirled, and the door automatically opened without any wind. Lin Muyu walked out gracefully, and called out to Wei Chou, Qin Yan and the rest, who were a distance away, Brothers, let's go back. In the room, only Su Muyun and Su Yu stood there in silence. Father, do you still think that Yu is someone you can control? Su Yu said with a self-deprecating smile, Yu is a genius, and he is only loyal to his own beliefs. How can such a person be controlled by an ordinary person? Su Muyun slammed his fist heavily on the table, causing the cups to tremble and fall to the ground. There was only anger in his eyes. This arrogant and conceited brat. Could it be that he wants me to assist him? Su Yu sighed, Father, can't you see it? Yu is still holding a grudge against us. What grudge? He hates us for not sending reinforcements after Lanyan City was besieged, causing Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, Lei Hong and the rest to die in battle. They are all his close relatives, and he will definitely blame this on Muyu City and Qihai City. However, Father, you don't have to worry, at least you will not stand on Tang Lan's side. After all, he killed Tang Bin, and Tang Lan will not tolerate him. Su Muyun slowly sat down, and he untied the sword from his waist. He held it in his hand and looked at it for a long time. Suddenly, the blade was half unsheathed and he said, Am I already old? Su'er was stunned and she said, Father, can you tell me what are you thinking? After Lin Muyu and Su Chang give birth to a child, we will depose Qin Yin and let Lin Muyu's child ascend to the throne. Ah? Su Yu stood there in a daze, and she suddenly became silent. Chapter 412. At night, Phoenix Perching Hall was very quiet. Only the sound of the wind blowing through the curtains could be heard. Winter had come, and it was another winter. A female official placed a heater beside Qin Yin and said with a smile, Your Highness, you've been looking for a long time. Qin Yin held a white robe with a smile. This was an armor cloak that only the white-robed imperial forest was worthy of wearing. Qin Yin had personally embroidered the emblem of the empire's purple Yin flower on it. In addition, the white robe had a small U embroidered on it, and the golden thread used was brand new. The female official couldn't help but laugh. Is this Commander Yu's robe? Yes. Qin Yin smiled happily like a girl in love. She just held the white robe and giggled happily. At this moment, she didn't have the majesty of an empress at all. The female official knelt down and said, "Your Highness, this servant will help you put it away. Commander, you will need to wear it tomorrow." But the next day, the coronation ceremony of the white-robed imperial forest was a well-deserved event of the empire. On the altar outside Zetian Hall, not only were there many officials, but even the people of Lanyan City were watching the two newly conferred white-robed imperial forests by Her Majesty the Queen from afar. One of the two white-robed imperial forests was a legendary figure, Lin Muyu, one of the four heroes of Lanyan City. During the chaos of Lanyan City, he fought with Luo Lan and died for the country. Later, he was mysteriously resurrected as one of the empire's commanders. His story had been spread to the point where it was common knowledge. Moreover, the people described Lin Muyu's appearance vividly, as if he was a god descending to the mortal world. This made him the dream lover of many girls in Lanyan City, although Lin Muyu didn't know them. The winter wind blew through the square, lifting the cloaks behind Lin Muyu and Suyu. Qin Yin, who was wearing a fur robe, looked extremely gorgeous. She slowly walked forward and took the scepter from the female official's hand. She smiled and said, "This is the loyal bravery scepter. I hope that Ayu and Aunt Luo will never betray the empire and the people of the world." Lin Muyu nodded, "I will." Suer said, "Me too." Qin Yin then took the white robe from the maid's tray and personally draped it over Lin Muyu. Her starry eyes were like water as she looked at her beloved who she had lost and found again. Moreover, Lin Muyu could also be called a jade tree in the wind. Qin Yin was so moved that she almost cried. Pursing her red lips, she said, I order you to always stay by my side and never leave." Lin Muyu looked at her deeply and said seriously, "Even if time and space are reversed, even if the universe is in chaos, I will not leave you, as long as you need me." Qin Yin nodded heavily. Suyu burst into laughter. Hey, I'm also a white-robed imperial forest. Shouldn't you confess to me as well? Qin Yin snappily smiled. Then I hope Aunt Lien finds a man worthy of entrusting her life to soon. Unreliable. Suyu pursed her lips and asked in a low voice, "Is the appointment ceremony over?" Qin Yin turned around and secretly glanced at Guyang on the altar in the distance. She snickered and said, "Grandpa Guyang is like a charlatan. He hasn't finished reading those long and complicated funeral rites." Lin Muyu asked, "Since the Imperial Guards have been rebuilt, they will definitely promote a commander of the Imperial Guards. Does Xiao Yin have anyone in mind?" "Actually, big brother, you should be able to guess it. It's a Yen, right?" I knew it. He's poaching my people again." Poaching without saying a word, Qin Yin burst into laughter. What kind of person does big brother you think Xiao Yin is? I will treat every member of the Imperial Guard well. By the way, I don't have any candidates here, so brother Ayu, please select 100 cultivators from the Holy Temple who are loyal to the Empire and have extraordinary cultivation base. This way, the entire Imperial Guards will be my people. Aren't you afraid that I will take the entire Imperial Guards with me? Lin Muyu was speechless. Qin Yin smiled sweetly and said, "Then you can take me with you." Suyu held her forehead and said, "You guys are so unscrupulously flirting with each other in front of me. Have you ever considered my feelings? Your Highness, I am a loyal official. You can't anger me to death during my conferring ceremony." Qin Yin burst into laughter, held Suyu's wrist and said, "All right, Aunt Ray, I didn't do it on purpose. I'm so hungry. I will treat you to a good meal at Zetian Palace Hall." Sure. Lin Muyu, who was at the side, said, "Oh right, all the delicacies in Zetian Palace Hall seem to be from the tributes of the feudal lords. There isn't anything too fresh. Let's rebuild the Eagle Nest camp as soon as possible so that we can hunt some delicious prey for you every day. Look at you, you have lost weight." Qin Yin rolled up the Empress's sleeves, looked at her jade-like chubby wrists, and said with a smile, "Is this called losing weight?" Lin Muyu curled her lips and said, "Come early in summer." Qin Yin was surprised. Lin Muyu thought for a while, changed to a more appropriate term, and said, "Xiao Yin, every summer in my hometown is a feast for the eyes. The girls will wear very beautiful clothes, but Lanyan City is different. In summer, the women in Lanyan City are still wrapped up tightly, just like women in the old society. What do you mean by women in the old society? Qin Yin had a helpless look on her face. In any case, Lin Muyu muttered to herself for a long time and said, in any case, if there is a chance, I will bring you back to my hometown to have a look and experience the atmosphere of life there. Su Yu complained helplessly, do you not want the empire anymore? Of course not. Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, after Xiao Yin cultivates the Dragon Slayer technique, she will immediately step into the Saint Domain. I believe that with her ability, she will definitely step into the God Realm within 100 years and reach the God Emperor Realm within 1,000 years. At that time, the empire will have been passed down for dozens of generations, and we will not be needed anymore. At that time, we will reverse time, and I will bring you home. What do you think? Qin Yin was overjoyed. Oh, it's a deal. Also, we will bring Xiao Shi and Sister Chu Yao. Okay. Lin Muyu clenched her fist complacently and said, when I return to Shanghai with my God Emperor Realm mystic strength, my father will be scared to death. At that time, I will bring you to eat all over the country, and then travel around Europe, hee. Su Yu said helplessly, Xiao Yin, what is he talking to himself about? Qin Yin shook her head. I don't know either. Finally, the long conferring ceremony ended. Lin Muyu, Su Yu, and Qin Yin walked down the stage and accepted the congratulations of the officials. At the same time, they officially confirmed the establishment of the Imperial Guard. They had lunch at Zetian Palace Hall and returned to the Divine Temple in the afternoon. Lin Muyu had to settle the matter of the Imperial Guard for Qin Yin as soon as possible. Ever since Lin Muyu returned, the Divine Temple used the system of centralizing manpower. The outstanding cultivators from the various divine temples were invited to serve at the headquarters. Therefore, there were more than 1,000 instructors and trainers. It was not difficult to select 100 people with Earth Realm cultivation and above, and there were even a few experts with Heaven Realm cultivation. In the evening, 100 Divine Temple experts came to Zetian Palace Hall to accept the Empress conferring. At this time, Qin Yen had already changed into a commander's armor and stood there happily with his hand on his sword. He looked very mighty. He became one of the commanders of the empire at such a young age, and he was probably the first person in recent times. Big brother. Qin Yen looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. Lin Muyu walked forward and helped Qin Yen remove the captaincy insignia on his collar with a serious expression. Then she helped him wear the commander insignia with 3 gold stars and said, Yen, from today onwards, you are the commander of the Imperial Guard, one of the most important commanders in the empire. You should be very clear about how important this position is. You must be careful and not be careless. Don't disappoint Her Highness's trust in you. Also, the previous commander of the Imperial Guard is your brother, so don't disappoint big brother Qin Lei. Qin Yen was solemn and quickly gave a military salute to Lin Muyu and said, Big brother, don't worry. Yen will definitely not disappoint you and my brother, and I will definitely not disappoint Her Highness the Empress. Good, very spirited. Lin Muyu smiled cheerfully. Feng Jixing, who was at the side, said, This scene actually made me vaguely recall the appearance of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen back then. Sigh, it's a pity that old Chu is missing. The Flying Mount Camp has been completely annihilated, and this organization no longer exists. No, it won't. Qin Yin walked over step by step and said, As long as the time is right, I will rebuild the Flying Mount Camp. However, this is on the premise that General Feng and Big Brother you must support me. That's for sure. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing nodded their heads together. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Big brother you, since the Imperial Guards have already been reorganized, it's better to do it sooner rather than later. I plan to start rebuilding the Imperial Guard within half a month. The establishment will be set at 10,000 people, and the soldiers of the Imperial Guard will be selected from the Longdan Army Camp and the Imperial Guards. You and General Feng shouldn't have any objections, right? Lin Muyu laughed straightforwardly and said, Don't worry, there are plenty of soldiers in the Longdan army camp. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, the Imperial Guards were trained by new recruits 2 years ago and have just taken shape. Since you has already boasted, then let's select 10,000 people from the Longdan army camp alone. Lin Muyu regretted it so much that her intestines turned green. She never expected that Feng Jixing would be so shameless. She hurriedly said, that won't do. Your Highness's words carry enormous weight. If you say that you will select 2 troops, then you must select 2. I can't just take advantage of it. Feng Jixing laughed heartily and said, that's fine, but... He muttered to himself for a moment and said, Your Highness, the time is ripe. Can we consider expanding the Imperial Guard? The 20,000 Imperial Guards are simply not enough. Any army of the feudal lords can destroy us. What I mean is that the Imperial Guard should have at least 50,000 people. Otherwise, it will be difficult to take on the heavy responsibility of protecting the imperial capital. The chaos in Lanyan City 4 years ago has proven everything. That's good. Qin Yin was a little embarrassed and said, but the expansion of the army must go through the Ministry of War. The Minister of War, Xue Ling, is Duke Lan's man. I'm afraid that this resolution won't be passed. Then what should we do? Feng Jixing stood there gnashing his teeth. Lin Muyu said, I have a suggestion. Oh, what is it? Feng Jixing and Qin Yin asked in unison. Lin Muyu said, since Duke Lan and Duke Yun want to stop the Imperial Guard from recruiting new soldiers, then let's recruit them in secret. All the recruited soldiers will be placed into the Imperial Guard's external corps and won't be included in the Imperial Guard's military system. If Duke Lan and Duke Yun pursue the matter, Big Brother Feng can say that these soldiers belong to the external corps and aren't officially part of the Imperial Guard. They are only doing odd jobs, so they won't be able to pursue the matter. In any case, there's no military police battalion now, so there's no need to be afraid. We can just deal with them. Feng Jixing's eyes lit up as he suddenly patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, Brat, you actually thought of such a shameless idea. Lin Muyu trembled and turned to look at him speechlessly. Fortunately, I'm also a saint. Otherwise, I would have been killed by you. Feng Jixing laughed out loud. I'll treat you to a drink tomorrow. I'll call 3 girls from the brothel for you. Alright. Qin Yin was speechless. At this moment, an official suddenly shouted, Deputy Commander Wei Cho requests an audience. Let him in. Yes. Not only did Wei Cho enter, but he also brought a beautiful young lady with him. It was Jin Xiaotang. When Jin Xiaotang saw Qin Yin, she immediately knelt down respectfully and said, Greetings, Your Highness. You may rise. Qin Yin smiled gently and said, Xiaotang is Big Brother Yu's woman, so she is also mine. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Xiaoying, what's the matter? Lin Muyu asked. Big Brother Yu, a batch of white diamond ornaments that we bought from the Qihai province was robbed 25 kilometers north of Lanyan City. Jin Xiaotang said with some grievance. *CK. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Who has the guts to touch the goods of our Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce? Chapter 413. I'm afraid there's only one person who dares to touch the goods of the Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce, Wei Cho said with narrowed eyes. Who? Lin Muyu asked. Situ Sin. Wei Chao's eyes lit up. The entire slum area in the east and west of Lanyan City is controlled by the Heaven Execution Society, established by this person. From human trafficking to the employment of wandering mercenaries, even the Imperial Army has to give him some face. There's such a thing? Lin Muyu looked at Feng Jixing and said, General Feng, Lanyan City is the territory of your Imperial Army. How can you tolerate the existence of such a person? It's not as simple as you think. Feng Jixing touched his nose and said, after 3 years of recuperation and population migration, Lanyan City has recovered to a megacity with a population of 5 million. The scale of the city is far larger than you can imagine. The slum area stretches for hundreds of miles and is not under the jurisdiction of the 20,000 Imperial Army. On the other hand, the Heaven Execution Society has more than 100,000 members and has spontaneously formed a self-growing model. Although the Heaven Execution Society has also done some bad things, they have unknowingly solved the food, water, clothing, and other problems of the slum area. Qin Yin blinked and said with a smile, "Brother Yu, our current military and financial strength are quite limited, so we have allowed Situ Sen and the Heaven Execution Society to grow in power in the east and west of the city. But don't worry, this is just General Feng's tactic of rearing pigs. Once the time is ripe, the Heaven Execution Society will provide us with a lot of manpower and material resources." So it's because the empire is unable to govern. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. Let me go meet this Situ Sen and see who he is. How dare he rob my goods?" "You be careful," Feng Jixing cautiously warned. "Situ Sen is not the only one in the Heaven Execution Society. He has a younger sister called Situ Shui. She is the leader of the North Ridge Mercenary Group, the top mercenary group in Lanyan City. You should have heard of her." Lin Muyu was stunned. "Situ Shui? It does sound familiar. If you're going to the Heaven Execution Association's headquarters, you'll need to bring more people with you. That way, you'll be able to protect yourself if a conflict breaks out." "Got it, don't worry, big brother Feng." Lin Muyu turned around and cupped her fists. She bowed to Qin Yin and excused herself. Then she led Wei Chou, Jin Xiaotang, and the others out of Zetian Palace. "Commander, how many brothers of the Longdan army camp should we bring?" Wei Chou asked. "We don't need too many. 1,000 soldiers will do. Let Fengxi and Su Jiantao lead the troops." "Yes." 2 hours later, the cavalry of the Courage of the Dragon Battalion galloped out of the camp. Under Lin Muyu and Wei Qiu's lead, they headed straight for Dongqing District. The headquarters of the Heaven Execution Association was in the center of the slums in Dongqing District. At the same time, it was also the poorest and most densely populated place in Lanyan City. As for Tongtian Street, where Lin Muyu usually resided, it was actually a place where nobles and wealthy commoners gathered. After galloping for more than half an hour, the buildings on both sides of the street gradually disappeared. They were replaced by low-rise houses that were closely connected to each other. Many of them were made of wood, as if they could be washed away by a heavy rain. The people in the slums looked indifferent as they watched the army of the Longdan army camp gallop past them. It was as if they had nothing to do with it. Not far ahead was the food market and slave market. Although the Qin Empire seemed to be very prosperous, it was still in the transitional stage between a slave society and a feudal society. The people's hearts were cold, and a group of slaves stood in a row like goods for the merchants who came and went to pick and choose. It was as if black, white, fat, and skinny were all bargaining chips. Lin Muyu frowned and urged his horse forward slowly. Jin Xiaotang seemed to see through his thoughts. She smiled and said, "Brother Yu, you still can't stand the slave trade?" Lin Muyu nodded. "People are born equal." Jin Xiaotang was a little surprised. She stuck out her tongue and smiled. "But in this world it is not like this. Some people are born to be emperors, like Her Highness. Some people are born to be slaves, like these people in front of us." Lin Muyu said, "If we were to release these slaves, give them abandoned land for them to cultivate and harvest a portion of their food, wouldn't the value they could produce be even greater?" Jin Xiaotang was stunned again. "Maybe Brother Yu is right, but Xiaoting has never thought about this." Wei Chou said in a low voice, "Commander, do you want us to use the funds of the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce to buy the strong men in the slave market at a low price and grant them freedom so that they can pick up weapons and serve the country loyally?" Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "This will only make the slave traders more aggressive. One day I will change everything from the source." Wei Chou was stunned and didn't say anything. Perhaps it was as Lin Muyu said, this situation needed a change. What could be changed? Nothing more than an imperial edict from Empress Qin Yin to grant amnesty to all the slaves in the world, grant them complete equality, and compensate and appease the masters of those slaves. This would change everything fundamentally. But this needed time, a lot of time. The sound of galloping horses could be heard. After passing through several city gates, they finally arrived at the heart of the slums. From afar, a patrolling knight could be seen leading a warhorse over. His face was full of fat. He bowed respectfully to Lin Muyu and said, "This subordinate greets Lord Commander. May I know who this general is?" Wei Chou pointed to the insignia of the Longdan army camp on his chest and said, "We are from the Longdan army camp." The patrolling knight naturally knew who this handsome commander was. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, Commander Yu." Lin Muyu nodded and asked, "What's your name? What is your responsibility here?" The patrolling knight replied, "My name is Zhang Lei, and I belong to the Ministry of War. I am responsible for patrolling this street." "You are the only one on such a big street?" Lin Muyu was surprised. "Yes, the Ministry of War doesn't have that many soldiers to share the workload. Furthermore, there are thousands of streets like this in the East District. It is very troublesome to patrol, so there are very few soldiers assigned. I guess the security here isn't very good, right?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Zhang Lei was silent out of fear. He cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to Commander Yu, very few people cause trouble here. Commander, please investigate this." "Alright, let's not talk so much. Bring me to the headquarters of the Tianju Association. I want to see Sidu Senior." Zhang Lei was aghast. "But you don't dare to go?" Wei Chou sneered. Zhang Lei gritted his teeth and said, "Then, I will only bring you to the entrance of the headquarters of the Tianju Association. I will not go in." "Alright, let's go." "Yes." Zhang Lei mounted his horse and led Lin Muyu and the others to the end of the street. At the end of the street, there were no longer any poor people. Instead, there was a group of people dressed in embroidered robes. A black tower rose from the ground amidst the dilapidated buildings. It stood out like a crane among a flock of chickens in the slums. This was the headquarters of the Heaven Execution Association. Wei Chou, Feng Shi, and the others couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The Tianju Association was indeed extraordinary. The grandeur of this building was already comparable to a noble's mansion. When Zhang Lei arrived at the front of the mansion, several people wearing cyan armor laughed loudly. "Hi, Lieutenant Zhang Lei, why are you here again? What, the hot and sour rice I treated you to last time was not hot and sour enough?" Zhang Lei's face was ashen as he urged his horse to take several steps back. The disciples of the Tianju Association rushed out from the courtyard, grabbed the reins, and forcibly pulled Zhang Lei off his horse. One of them laughed loudly. "You dare meddle in the affairs of our Tianju Association? You must be tired of living. Come, kowtow to this grandpa a few times and I will let you go back to your official duties." Zhang Lei's expression was extremely ugly as he looked at Lin Muyu and the others for help. At this time, the disciples of the Tianju Association turned around and saw 1,000 elite soldiers from the Longdan army camp standing behind them. Their faces immediately turned pale. Lin Muyu dismounted and smiled faintly. "Imperial Longdan Army Camp, Lin Muyu requests an audience with Situ Senator. Please pass on the message for me." You guys." The leader's face was ashen. "The Imperial Army never comes to our Lanshui Street. What is the Longdan Army Camp thinking?" Wei Chou's expression turned cold. He unsheathed his sword halfway and growled, "What are you waiting for? Do you want to die?" Yes, wait a moment." The ruffians let go of Zhang Lei and rushed into the mansion in a panic. Zhang Lei said with a face full of shame, "Commander Yu, this subordinate has embarrassed the Imperial Army." "It's fine," Lin Muyu said with a gentle expression. "It's the Ministry of Military Affairs that assigned too few people here, and the Tianju Association is too arrogant. It's not your fault, but you're the one suffering here." "This subordinate isn't suffering," Zhang Lei said in a trembling voice. "Go, leave the matters here to me." About the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the Longdan army camp outside the mansion had become extremely impatient. Many people had drawn their swords and were ready to charge in at any time to start a massacre. The group of Tianju Association guards outside the gate turned pale with fright, not daring to breathe loudly. These people from the Tianju Association could only ride roughshod over the civilians. Once they encountered a regular army like the Longdan army camp, they would immediately be scared out of their wits. It was at this moment that a martial artist wearing fiery red armor and a long sword walked out. He cupped his fists and smiled respectfully at Lin Muyu. "So it's Commander Yu who has come. I'm one of the 5 stewards of the Tianju Association, Zhou Nian. Steward Situ Sen has already prepared a banquet. Please come in with us, Commander Yu." "Many thanks." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled. She placed her hand on the hilt of the sword at her waist and stepped inside. Wei Chou, Feng Shi, and the others dismounted and led the Longdan army camp inside. Zhou Nian hurriedly turned around with an awkward expression. "Commander Yu, please forgive me. The Tianju Association's headquarters is too small and can't accommodate too many people. So, only 5 of you can go in." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Wei Chou, bring 3 people and follow me in. Feng Shi, Su Jiantao, the 2 of you guard outside with everyone else." Feng Shi and Su Jiantao said in unison. Wei Chou smiled and said, "If the commander and I don't come out in 2 hours, return to the camp and gather 20,000 soldiers from the Longdan army camp to raze this Tianju Association to the ground. Protect Xiaoteng well." Lin Muyu instructed and stepped onto the stone steps of the Tianju Association's headquarters without looking back. Chapter 414. The gate of the headquarters was tightly shut and covered with spikes. It was guarded by 8 guards. One of them quickly stepped forward and reached out to block the gate, saying, "Milord, please follow our rules and remove your weapons before entering the headquarters." "Remove weapons?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "You bunch of gangsters, who gave you the right to remove the weapons of the Empire's commander?" "We." The guard was actually speechless. Zhou Nian coughed and said, "All right, let Commander Yu bring his weapons in. This is how we treat our guests." With a creak, the gate slowly opened. Although it was daytime, there were many braziers and candles burning inside. Smoke lingered in the air, making Lin Muyu feel like she was in the Hall of Chivalry. She stepped into the headquarters step by step. When her eyes adjusted to the brightness, she found that it was a meeting hall with a disc-shaped basin in the middle and raised platforms on both sides. The platforms were filled with people and there was wine and meat on the tables. Lin Muyu released the spirit pulse technique and found that most of these people were at the Earth Realm. Lanyan City was indeed a city of hidden talents. There was actually a group of Earth Realm experts gathered here. She led Wei Chou and the others into the disc and could only look up at the person at the host's table. It was a young man in tiger skin armor. He was less than 30 years old and looked quite handsome. He stared at Lin Muyu like a hawk and suddenly stood up. He held a wine glass and smiled, saying, "I was wondering who it was. So it's the general of Lanyan City." "You are Situ-sen?" Lin Muyu asked proudly. She was surrounded by gusts of wind and the white imperial forest cloak behind her fluttered even though there was no wind. She didn't look angry. Situ-sen put down his wine glass and smiled. "And you are?" Lin Muyu. "Oh, so it's the famous Commander Yu of Iha country." Situ-sen cupped his fists and bowed. His bow didn't seem pretentious at all and was truly respectful. "May I know why Commander Rain has come to visit Tianju?" "We have a batch of white diamond ornaments we bought from Qihai City. They were robbed outside the northern city of Lanyan City. I wonder if it was your association?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Unexpectedly, Situ-sen confessed and laughed. "Yes, I did order the looting, but I thought it was the noble ladies of Lanyan City who bought the goods. I didn't expect it to be Commander Yu's goods." Lin Muyu said, "These white diamonds are used to refine white diamond arrowheads to fight against the demon race and the Iha kingdom. I hope your excellency can return them in full." Situ-sen kept muttering to himself, but a young girl sitting beside him raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "What a joke! You think you can return it just because you say so? Who do you think you are?" Lin Muyu looked up. This girl was dressed in military attire with 2 crescent blades hanging from her waist. They didn't look like weapons from the Middle Earth, but she was very pretty and somewhat similar to Sidu's senator. She should be Situ Shui. Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "What's wrong, North Ridge Mercenary Group leader?" Sidu Shui gently pulled out one of the crescent blades and smiled. "Since Commander Ray knows me, Sidu Shui, then you should know my style. If you can't win against my 2 blades, then don't mention returning the goods. More than a dozen of our men died in order to steal your goods. You killed people for their goods and sold them for profit." Lin Muyu raised her long sword lightly without unsheathing the dragon spiritual sword. With a confident and arrogant attitude, she said, "Miss Situ, come at me. If I can defeat you after unsheathing my sword, it'll be my loss." Arrogant. Sidu Shui jumped down and raised her 2 blades, slashing down with the radiance of battle energy. Lin Muyu's martial soul surged, and the golden gourd wall broke out of her body, illuminating the entire meeting hall. The dragon spirit and the scabbard parried Situ Shui's double blades, but Situ Shui's movements were very agile. She immediately changed her move when her attack missed. One of her blades parried the dragon spirit, and the other slashed towards Lin Muyu's abdomen ruthlessly. "What a fierce little girl!" Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. Dragon chi lingered around her left arm, and she raised her true dragon arm horizontally to parry Situ Shui's blade. At the same time, she turned her right wrist, and the dragon spirit cleverly spun in the air to parry Situ Shui's blade. The hilt of the sword fell down with a loud bang, directly hitting towards Situ Shui's shoulder. "In your dreams!" Situ Shui's beautiful face was filled with fighting spirit, and with a single step, she dodged the attack from the dragon spirit's hilt. Raising both of her blades horizontally, they shined like snowflakes as they slashed towards Lin Muyu's lower back. However, Lin Muyu's speed was even faster. She used the falling star step to dodge Situ Shui's attack, and at the same time, her battle boots were also filled with whirlwind do chi as she kicked out. Situ Shui could feel the power of this kick, and she hurriedly raised her blades in front of her chest to parry. But Lin Muyu's strength was too much stronger than hers. With a loud bang, Situ Shui's blades flew out of her hands, and she fell on the spectator's stand in a slightly awkward manner. "Protect the leader!" A group of high-ranking generals of the North Ridge Mercenary Corps stood up, pulled out their weapons, and pounced over. Lin Muyu didn't dodge, and she didn't even unsheath the dragon spirit. She directly swept over with whirlwind battle energy, and the attack carried the power of the god-binding chains, created an arc of energy impact, blowing more than a dozen generals away. Even the candles on the spectator's stand were extinguished. Standing on the round disc with wisps of golden god-binding chains around her, Lin Muyu raised her head and asked proudly, "Who else wants to try?" Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. It was common knowledge that Situ Shui was at the first level of the Heaven Realm, but Situ Shui was defeated in 3 moves by Lin Muyu without unsheathing her blade. The others definitely had no chance of winning. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of applause came from Situ's senator. He stood up proudly and said, "The 4 heroes of Lanyan are indeed worthy of their reputation. Situ Shui must be convinced of her defeat. Commander Yu, we, the Heaven Execution Society, have our own rules. I can return the white diamond to you, but you must win against me, Situ-sen, with this sword in my hand. Do you dare?" "Why not?" Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the dragon spirit and smiled proudly. "If I can't convince you, citizen, how can I convince the world?" "What a big tone. I like it." Situ-sen slowly pulled out his blade. It also had the soul of a saint beast. It was a sacred weapon. The slums also had a sacred weapon. Moreover, there were 3 milky white fighting spirits hovering above Situ-sen's blade. He was an expert at the middle level of the 3rd level of the Heaven Realm. Lanyan City was really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Looking at Lin Muyu, Situ-sen said lightly, "If Commander you can defeat me, Citizen, in 3 moves, you win." But Lin Muyu nodded. "Let's begin." Situ-sen roared and raised his fighting spirit to the peak. In fact, Lin Muyu's injury had not healed, and the strength of her fighting spirit might not be stronger than Situ-sen's. This was really an evenly matched battle. The only variable was the moves. Lin Muyu's moves were obviously far above Situ Sen's. Buzz. Raging flames surged. Lin Muyu's first move was a killing move, using fire to control the sword. Faced with the dragon spirit sword that was rotating at high speed and surging with true dragon origin fire, Citizen naturally had to go all out. With a loud shout, Do Qi gathered on the blade of the sword. Rays of purple light appeared around his body like a whirlpool. Go! As Lin Muyu launched her sword, Citizen quickly retreated as if he was escaping. However, a purple whirlpool of power was revolving around him, distorting the power of the dragon spirit fire spiral break. The next moment, Citizen roared and actually reversed the situation, blasting the dragon spirit sword at Lin Muyu. Damn! Heart-turning art! Citizen roared, and the dragon spirit sword counterattacked Lin Muyu. How is this possible? Lin Muyu was stunned. She hurriedly opened her right palm, and the power of stars surged. With a roar, she forcefully smashed the dragon spirit sword to the ground. Bang! Stone chips flew everywhere, and the shockwave forced those who were close to her to retreat. At the same time, the power of stars gathered in her right fist, and suddenly jumped up. Lin Muyu adopted a condescending posture. The conference hall looked like it was penetrated by countless stars. The stars were shining all over the sky, and they gathered into Lin Muyu's palm strength. It fell from the sky. It was the third move of the star art, 5 mountains descend from the sky. And this time, it was really the 5 mountains descend from the sky. The power of Lin Muyu's palm was no less than the pressure of a mountain. Since Situ Sen had the ability of Big Dipper, let's see if he had the magical power of turning mountains. Facing Lin Muyu's great palm strength, Situ Sen's face was aghast. He held the long sword horizontally in front of his chest, and forcibly stirred the heart-turning art's power. His face was pale. When the 5 mountains descend from the sky got closer and closer, Situ Sen's face became paler and paler, but he continued to stir the heart-turning art's power, trying to divert the power of the 5 mountains descend from the sky. However, in the next second, Situ Sen had already given up. The power of the stars was like a surging river, and it was impossible to divert it, let alone use it for his own use. The stone tiles under his feet were constantly cracking under the pressure of the 5 mountains descend from the sky, and even the skin between his thumb and index finger was bleeding. At this time, Citizen finally gritted his teeth and shouted, "I lost." Swoosh! The star power that Lin Muyu condensed in the center of his palm suddenly loosened and smoothly slid over Situ Sen's head. After floating to the ground, he gently swung his palm, and the terrifying power that made Situ Sen feel as if he was in purgatory dissipated into indigo-blue stardust, which was a spectacular sight. Situ Sen kept panting, and his face was livid. "May I ask, Commander Yu, what is this power? How could it be so heavy and vigorous?" "The skill that I cultivate is called star art, and it originates from the star power in the sky." Lin Muyu lightly explained, and then smiled. "Lord Situ Sen is really amazing. There are not many people who can make me use the star art." Situ Sen's face was full of shame, and he cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Commander Yu, for not killing me. Situ Sen appreciates it." He was also a broad-minded person, and he spoke his mind. "Now, can you return the white diamond to our purple flower chamber of commerce?" Lin Muyu smiled and asked. "Of course." Chapter 415. Situ Sen looked at his subordinates and said, "Men, bring all the white diamonds from the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce here and return them to Commander Yu." The subordinates cupped their fists and went to move the goods. Situ Sen turned around and said, "Commander Yu, would you do me the honor of having a drink with us at the Tianju Association?" "Sure." Lin Muyu was interested in befriending him and naturally nodded. "Great. This way, please." Situ Sen led Lin Muyu to the host's table and set up another table with good wine and meat. Lin Muyu stayed behind to drink and raised her eyebrows. "Wei Chou, go and tell everyone to lift their guard and send someone over to move the goods." "Yes, Commander." Wei Chou turned around and left. Not long after Lin Muyu sat down, Sidu Shui came over. She looked valiant and heroic. She raised her cup with both hands and smiled. "I was disrespectful just now. I hope, Commander, you will forgive me. This cup is a toast of apology from Situ Shui." "Why would I?" "You don't have to take it to heart, Mississippi." Lin Muyu raised her cup and drained it in one gulp. She turned to look at Situ Sen and said, "Sir Situ Sen, you are so skilled that few people in the empire are your match. Why did you end up in a place like this, preying on the people and acting like a tyrant?" "I am ashamed." Citizen looked ashamed and said, "I was originally one of the captaincy of the Tianchong Legion. 4 years ago, I was seriously injured by Luo Lan's subordinate, Yen Li, in the battle at Lanyan City. Therefore, I hid in the slums to avoid the disaster. Later, I felt ashamed to meet the Empress again, so I hid in the slums, killed the original in charge of the Tianju Association, and made myself the leader." "I see." Lin Muyu nodded. "So it's Yen Li." Sidu Sen's face was full of respect as he said, "I heard that not long ago, Commander, you took back the head of Commander Qin Lei from the Iha Kingdom and killed dozens of generals from the Iha Kingdom, including Yen Li. Is it true?" "It's true." Lin Muyu patted the armor on her chest and said, "My injuries haven't fully healed yet, it's all thanks to Lu Zhan and Yen Li." As he spoke, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Sir Situ Sen, the changing heart mantra that you used can turn your opponent's strength into your own. It's very mysterious and it sounds familiar. I seem to have heard of it somewhere before." Citizen shuddered and said, "Commander Yui? Is there something you can't say?" "No, it's just that." Citizen looked like he wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Situ Shui couldn't stand it anymore and directly said, "Commander Yu, my brother and I are the descendants of the famous General Sidu Qiong of the Empire. However, my brother has been depressed in the Tianchong army. General Du Hai has no intention of promoting my brother for many years, so my brother has the intention of retreating." During the Battle of Lanyan City, my brother wasn't afraid of death. "Please investigate clearly," Lin Muyu said softly. "It doesn't matter." During the Battle of Lanyan City, everyone was running for their lives in a daze. Who could care about others? However, now that Empress Qin Yin has ascended to the throne, an expert like you, Sidu Sen, is living in the slums of Lanyan City. Don't you feel that you're useless? "I know, but," Situ Sen said with some distress, "I'm afraid that the imperial court is full of treacherous people, and there's no place for people like me." "That won't happen." Lin Muyu said confidently, "As long as you're willing, I can recommend you to Her Highness. With your ability and appeal, I believe you can build a new army. You should also know that the demons have fallen from the sky and occupied the eastern regions of Lingdong Province, Tongtian Province, and Songnan Province. The empire is in need of manpower now." Sidu Sen's eyes lit up and he said, "I don't need Commander Yu's recommendation." But Lin Muyu was stunned. Sidu Sen suddenly took a big gulp of hard liquor. His eyes were burning as he said, "Although I'm not in the imperial court, I know how dirty it is. Lord Lan and Lord Yun each occupy half of the empire, and the Empress lives in the cracks. If I really build an imperial army, it will most likely be controlled by either Lord Lan or Lord Yun. I, Citizen, have been open and above board all my life, and I don't want to be that kind of lowly person. So, Commander Yu, please accept me. I'm willing to call on the brothers of the Tianju Society to join the Longdan army camp and follow you to conquer the world." You're really willing to follow me?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Sidu Sen nodded. He laughed again. "But the brothers of the Tianju Society are not easy to deal with. If you want us to join the Imperial Army, it depends on your sincerity. After all, there's no free pancake in this world, and there's no free sex either." At the side, Sidu Shui pouted and said, "Brother, you're so rude." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "You and your brothers can also get the treatment that the Longdan army camp can get. When the time is right, all of you will become members of the Longdan army camp." Situ Sen nodded. "These are not problems. If it's to kill the demons and show our loyalty to the Empire, we definitely won't have any objections. It's just that most of my brothers come from poor backgrounds, and many of their sisters and brothers are slaves. Sidu-san only asks for one thing. If you can get an imperial edict from Her Highness to pardon their families, we will definitely follow you to our deaths. Pardon? Lin Muyu furrowed his brows and remained silent. Commander, you don't dare? Situ-san squinted his eyes and asked with a smile. What's there to be afraid of? Lin Muyu nodded. I will tell Her Highness the truth, but you must also abide by my promise. From today onwards, your men can no longer do evil, bully the people, and rob. Otherwise, if the Longdan army camp catches them, they will kill every single one of them. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Sidu-san cupped his fists. Rest assured, sir. Please trust me, Sidu Senator, I won't let you down. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at Sidu Shui. Suddenly, Sidu Shui's heart was beating wildly under the gaze of this handsome commander. She blushed and said, Sir, do you want to take in my North Ridge Mercenary Regiment as well? That's right. Lin Muyu nodded. The Empire is on the brink of life and death. Your North Ridge Mercenary Regiment is the strongest in Lanyan City. Do you still want to occupy a mountain and wait to reap the benefits? Miss Sidu Shui, I can tell you the truth. If the steel wall of Tsangnan province fails, the demon clan will definitely massacre every inch of the empire. No matter which mountain the North Ridge Mercenary Regiment hides in, they won't be able to escape this disaster. Hee, Commander, don't scare me. Situ Shui patted her chest and pretended to be extremely scared. She continued to ask with a smile, Commander Yu, are the demon clan really as powerful as the legends say? Yes, even a sanctuary expert like Du Hai was killed. You can imagine how powerful the demon clan is. Lin Muyu said. Then has Commander Yu fought with Lei Chong? Yes. What are the odds of winning? No chance of winning. Lin Muyu answered honestly. It can't be? Sidu Shui stuck out her tongue and said, even Commander Yu, with her amazing cultivation, is no match for them. Yes. Lin Muyu looked at her with a smile. Let's get back to business. I am now one of the generals of the Empire. I have enough power to decide these things. Miss Situ Shui, are you willing to lead the North Ridge Mercenary Regiment to join our Longdan army camp? Well, Situ Shui said awkwardly, I don't have the final say on this. If you want all of them to join, it will be a little difficult. First of all, they must have enough money to settle down. What do you mean by that? We mercenaries are different from you soldiers. We can only stay on the mountain and don't even have a home. Many of our brothers don't even have a wife. So, we need at least 200 Jinin coins to settle down their families in a house around Lanyan City. Otherwise, they won't give up the mercenary commission and become soldiers of the Empire. I see. How many people are there in the North Ridge Mercenary Regiment? More than 15,000. All right. Lin Muyu looked at Sidu Shui and said, It's a deal. I will take out 3 million Jinin coins and you must lead the North Ridge Mercenary Regiment to join the Longdan army camp. All right. Sidu Shui shook Lin Muyu's hand and said, It's a deal. As she spoke, she blushed again. Lin Muyu couldn't help but look at Situ Sen and asked, How did your sister become the leader of the North Ridge Mercenary Regiment? Isn't it simple? Sidu Sen chuckled. She started as an ordinary mercenary and fought her way up. Finally, she defeated the old leader with 2 swords. After the old leader retired, it was her turn. I see. It was almost dusk when Lin Muyu and Sidu Sen finally came to an agreement. Although Situ Sen was a straightforward person, he also gave a lot of conditions. On the other hand, Sidu Shui's conditions were simpler. She was willing to join the Longdan army camp as long as she had the money. However, she and her brother had to be given the position of captaincy. This was simple. Lin Muyu could use the seal to confer the title of commander. Under the setting sun, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and Fengxi slowly left the slums. Commander, do you really trust Sidu Sen? Wei Chou asked worriedly. Trust. Lin Muyu nodded and suddenly smiled. Although this person isn't easy to deal with his cultivation and charisma, he will be a great help if I can use him. No matter what, our Longdan army camp needs people like him. And the leader of the North Ridge Mercenary Regiment, Situ Shui. Have you decided to recruit this group of mercenaries? What are we going to do now? To see Her Highness and request for an imperial edict to truly subdue Situ Sen and Situ Shui. Give the order to expand the Longdan army camp and build another camp in the wilderness north of the city. The city really can't garrison so many people. Yes, I understand. Chapter 416. That night, Lin Muyu received the pardon edict from Qin Yin. She was extraordinarily efficient. She brought Fengxi, Su Jiantao, and the others to the slums in the east of Lanyan City and read the edict to everyone. Then, she gave the edict to Situ Senator. With this edict, he could pardon any servant related to the Heaven Judgment Society. As for the gold hun coins, it took Jin Shaoling half a day to gather 3 million gold hun coins. However, in exchange, Lin Muyu had to forge some dream of returning peaks and a batch of weapons for the Chamber of Commerce. She had nothing better to do anyway. 6 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu's injuries had recovered by 90%. Her strength had mostly recovered, and there were signs that she was stronger than before. Her battle chi had become thicker and purer. As her strength improved, the God-binding chains and martial soul gourd also became stronger day by day. This was something he could feel. Early in the morning, the holy temple was silent. Frost covered the ground on this winter morning, and the temperature dropped sharply. It was so cold that people shivered. It seemed that the first snow of the year was about to arrive. In the center of the hall, a purple stone was placed there, surrounded by Guyang, Zhou Yao, Bailey Fu, and Jing Shanhe, the 4 deacons, Guyang, Zhou Yao, Bailey Fu, and Jing Shanhe. In addition, even Chu Chu was there. He was reading a thick book with a face full of suspicion. Chu, did you find it? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Not yet. Chu Chu shook his head. Lin Muyu smiled. Why don't we forget about it? There's no need to name my martial soul, right? That won't do. Gu Yang's tone left no room for argument. You are now the Grand Deacon, the soul of the Empire's cultivation world. If we can't even identify your martial soul and name it, then I'm afraid the myriad soul canon will no longer be the #1 canon in the world regarding martial souls. Okay then. Lin Muyu drank her tea. After a while, Chu Chu finally lost his patience. He closed the book and said, I'm afraid. There was no mention of Yu's martial spirit in the books of our ancestors. In my opinion, why don't we test the strength of our martial spirits ourselves, and determine the levels of our martial spirits, then we can just name them. Gu Yang laughed. All right, that's what I mean too. Chu Chu nodded. You, go to the testing stone and summon your green gourd. Push your martial spirit's power to the highest level. Yes, Chu. Lin Muyu stood up and walked to the testing stone. This stone was collected from deep within the mountains. It possessed natural spiritual energy and was naturally sensitive to human martial spirits. Lin Muyu gently placed her palm on the stone. The golden gourd emerged from her body. As Lin Muyu activated her Do Qi, the light became more and more intense. In the blink of an eye, it let out a weng-weng sound, illuminating the entire temple. The light on the testing stone continued to shine. It changed from green to green, then to black, then to deep red, and finally stopped at purple. It's purple now. Gu Yang was overjoyed. Chu's martial spirit has already reached the purple first grade. Under Yu's cultivation, this gourd martial spirit has already advanced to the first grade. Chu Chu twirled his beard and laughed. Yu is indeed talented. He can do what others can't. I can feel that this green gourd martial spirit has the essence of the 7 luminaries Shen force. As Yu grew, the essence of the martial spirit was changed by the 7 luminaries Shen force. That's why its power is so powerful. In my opinion, Yu's first grade martial spirit should be named 7 luminaries Holy Gourd. Deacon Gu Yang, what do you think? Gu Yang chuckled, good name. Chu is really knowledgeable. This 7 luminaries holy gourd is enough to become a first-grade martial spirit. Gu Yang picked up a brush, dipped it in ink, and wrote the name of 7 luminaries holy gourd on the second page of the Book of 10,000 Souls. At the same time, there were 6 other first-grade martial spirits: God-binding chain, demon blood saber, purple dragon, 8 desolate sword, dragon beard vine, and stepping fire tiger. Chu Chu squinted his eyes and said, "You, summon your God-binding chain and push your power to the highest level." "Yes, Chu." Lin Muyu gave a low shout, and 9 golden God-binding chains appeared around her. Light swirled around her, and as Lin Muyu exerted her strength, the golden light expanded explosively. At the same time, a faint starlight from the 9 heavens appeared around the golden light, and the power of the stars seeped into the God-binding chains, giving off a domineering aura. The light on the testing stone continued to expand until it turned purple. Then, blue starlight appeared above the purple. It was a spectacular sight. "Wow, it can't be?" Zhou Yao was dumbfounded. Bai Lifu's eyes also widened. Could it be? Deacon's God-binding chain has surpassed the first-grade martial spirit? Gu Yang's hands were trembling, and he was very excited. Yu's God-binding chain seems to have changed. Yes. Chu Chu smiled as if he was looking at a fire. I don't know why, but the star arts that Yu cultivates can actually fuse with the God-binding shackles, causing the star arts that are infused with the God-binding shackles to be even more overbearing. This is really a stroke of luck. The power of the God-binding shackles is indeed above the first class of martial spirits. Deacon Gu Yang, how do you think we should classify it? Gu Yang's breathing was a little hurried, and his face was red. This is a miracle. In the history of the Holy Temple, there has never been a situation like this. A martial spirit that surpasses the first grade. Are we going to create a new classification for martial spirits? Chu Chu smiled. That's not impossible. Deacon Gu Yang, don't be too excited. I can boldly tell you that after Her Highness Yin cultivates the dragon beheading art, her God-binding chain seems to have been strengthened by the dragon beheading art, and its power is also slightly higher than the first grade. If we really want to create a new classification, then Yu and Xiao Yin's martial spirits are enough to be classified as martial spirits of the first grade. Lin Muyu coughed. Deacon Gu Yang, then let's do it martial spirits of the first grade. It sounds a little stronger than the first grade martial spirit. Hey, this old man obeys. Gu Yang immediately wrote martial spirits of the first grade on the draft of the 10,000 soul canon and raised his head, but, as they are both God-binding chains, how should we name them? Chu Chu pondered for a moment, then said, Yu's martial spirit shall be named Star God-binding chains, and Xiao Yin's martial spirit shall be named True Dragon God-binding chains. This is also in line with the will of the heavens. Her Highness Yin has the bloodline of an emperor and the body of a true dragon, so she is probably the only one who can cultivate the true dragon God-binding chains. Lin Muyu happily returned to her seat and sat down again, then said, I can finally hold my head high. Super First Grade Star God-binding chains, First Grade 7 Luminaries Immortal Gourd. From now on, my name will be written in the annals of the cultivation world of the Empire, right? Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Not only the annals of the cultivation world, even the annals of the Empire will definitely have a page of your name. Maybe later generations of historians will even write a personal chronicle for you. That is a rare honor. The Empire has existed for thousands of years, but only a few dozen people have had the honor of writing a chronicle. Lin Muyu said with a smile, Fame to me is like a floating cloud in the sky. Before she could finish, a temple guard outside said respectfully, Grand Deacon, Princess Tang Xiaoxi requests an audience. Ah, Xiaoxi is back? Yes, she is just outside the hall. No? I'll go get her. Lin Muyu didn't even care about the dragon spirit sword on the table and flew out of the main hall. Chu Chu, Gu Yang, Zhou Yao, and the others all smiled knowingly. Although Lin Muyu was now the Grand Deacon of the temple and one of the commanders of the Empire's major armies, she was still a hot-blooded young man after all. Outside the Grand Hall, The cold wind was blowing, causing Tang Xiaoxi's white leather robes to flutter lightly. Tang Xiaoxi stood gracefully on Skyspan Street, the strong wind causing her to blink her eyes repeatedly, her long eyelashes seeming to struggle in the strong wind. It was only when Lin Muyu walked out, dressed in the white robes of the imperial forest, that Tang Xiaoxi's eyes lit up. Seeing the person she had been thinking about day and night had a completely new demeanor, it was as if her heart was about to melt. "It's cold outside, let's talk inside." Lin Muyu gently grabbed her hand and led her into the temple. Suddenly, Tang Xiaoxi blushed and her heart was as warm as the sun. Behind them, a group of generals of the state army and several guards of the temple were all smiling. Everyone in Lanyan City knew that Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi had a very close relationship. They also knew that Lin Muyu, the foster son of the former emperor, had a very good relationship with the current emperor, Qin Yin. Therefore, almost every man in Lanyan City was envious of Lin Muyu, who had two supreme beauties in the imperial capital. This was something that ordinary people dared not think about. "Xiao Yin, you must have something to do in Lanyan City, right?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. "Can't I come to you if I have nothing to do?" Tang Xiaoxi looked at her with a hidden bitterness. Lin Muyu smiled and said, "How's the matter of the demon clan in the Forest of Infinity?" "It's all right." Tang Xiaoxi gently held his arm. Suddenly, her eyes turned red and she said, "I heard that you went to the Iha kingdom. It's all right, it's all right." Lin Muyu patted the back of her hand and said, "I've brought Brother Qin Lei's head back and buried it under the national monument. If I don't do this, I won't be able to rest in peace. Xiao Shi, you must be able to understand me." But Tang Xiaoxi wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. "Let's talk about the demon clan." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "The demon clan's Marshal Qianfeng has deliberately built all kinds of siege weapons, planning to attack the empire's territory from the west. I'm worried that once the demon clan really succeeds in their invasion, our human army's power will be unable to resist them. At that time, I'm afraid we'll have to rely on the demon clan's military power." The demon clan isn't having an easy time either. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, "The temperature in the Forest of Infinity is unpredictable. This spring and summer, the sun has been blazing in the sky and there's very little rain, resulting in a severe drought. The wild plants in the forest have a very poor harvest, so the food for the demon clan has become very little. Autumn has just arrived, and it's snowing continuously. The entire west of the demon-subduing pass has become a sea of snow. A few days before I came, thousands of demon clans starved to death. So this time, I came to Lanyan City to borrow food from Xiao Yin." Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She touched her nose and said, "Shall I accompany you to see Xiao Yin?" You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.